What's up? Oh shit. Right, the wrong thing. I'm just getting started. Woke up a little late. How is everybody doing this morning? The hell is that? Okay, that's better. I am using a different camera because my main camera is outside because I am making a time-lapse video, which ought to be pretty cool. Let's see. All these things that I leave set a certain way, they sometimes end up screwed up. That one's fine. Fox is fine. Bloomberg is fine. Doesn't look like there's very much news going on. It's Hump Day, April Fool's Day. What kind of jokes you got planned for anybody? You gonna get somebody today? I hope so, because it's always a fun day on April Fool's, right? I'm just wondering if there's going to be anything in the news that is going to turn out to be BS. Sometimes there are little things, weird things that happen, you know, that coincide with weird days like that. But then again, most of the time you don't see anything like that in the real world, but I will be keeping my eye out for anything interesting. Looks like $1 shit the bed. Ooh, so did oil. Man, I'm glad I got out of that future. Damn, look at all those drops. Wow. Well, if I had to guess based on what it looks like here, I'd say short it. But see, the problem with shorting is you can only ever make 100%. Now, that sounds funny, right? But it's true. You can only ever make 100% of your investment when you short. When it goes up, yeah, you can. Those are the moves that you can make much bigger amounts on. Yeah, you may be wondering why I'm using this camera instead of the side viewing, because my other camera is outside making a time-lapse video. That ought to be cool. Let's see what Fox is saying, if there's any news going on in the world.
Just to get you up to speed with this Artemis 2 launch that's happening later on this evening. NASA set to launch this historic moon mission later on today. Now, it would be the first crewed lunar flight since back in 1972.
You know, if I remember it, around 6 p.m., I'm going to go live again. And just live stream this this moon launch shit. Ought to be cool, huh?
Up in a couple of...
Ought to be super cool. Newsmax ain't talking about nothing. There must not be any news going on quite yet. Let's see what Bloomberg's saying.
We haven't seen that kind of stock sell-off, equity bond sell-off, and currency sell-off. We haven't had that, and I don't think we're going to have that necessarily. It's just a grind higher with each shock moving inflation.
Let's sound the US 10-year. Let's just stay on that pace if we can. 428. You are absolutely right. we are at the upper end of the pre-war range. This was it, 428. Now, with that in mind, if you go pre-war, a lot of people came into this year excited about a cyclical bounce. And this, for me, and Lisa and I have been talking about this a few times in the last week, this for me is the great contradiction in the consensus right now. At the start of the year, everyone's bulled up on a cyclical bounce. That's the consensus view. The consensus view now is the economy is not strong enough to have second-order inflation effects. Now, can you help reconcile those two consensus views? Make sense of that?
I guess people just think that the consumers are going to retrench. But I think we've learned over the last 5 years the U.S. consumer wants to spend money. And the fiscal consequences of the war, we think, are that governments are going to spend more money. So that's all stimulatory to growth. IP was picking up for data centers. It was picking up, but also more broadly at the start of this year. So the ISM kind of moved out of contraction for the first time in 2 years. That wasn't just data center builds. That was a more broad lift. And so I think last year, if you put yourself in the shoes of a U.S. consumer, tariffs are all the headline. Do you want to be the fool and go and buy something when it's tariffed if you don't know what the tariff rate's going to be? So services did a lot of the heavy lifting last year. U.S. consumers spent money on services. We don't measure that with retail sales. It doesn't come out every month. We don't track it as closely. But U.S. consumers spent money last year. It just wasn't on the stuff that they were worried had a higher tariff price.
So we understand the concern about the bond market. You've given us a pretty in-depth framework for that. How are you deploying capital? How are you taking risk right now on the long side?
Yeah, so over this month, you saw a lot of complacent trades get unsettled. So people were looking to clip a coupon. A lot of tourists were in emerging markets. That was sort of the trade of the start of the year. And emerging market bond markets really got rocked at the start of this month. So we use that as an entry point to step into kind of some of the more commodity exposed countries. Mexico, Brazil, yields shot up. There was an expectation of lots of cutting. They're still biased to ease, but now you're getting kind of a couple 100 basis points of extra yield to kind of enter into a country that is exporting into this higher commodity environment. And so the terms of trade
Yeah. I don't know about you, man, but in the morning, a lot of times, first thing, I need a laugh. I need a laugh to get me going. Ooh. Dude, listen. I'm going to Thailand. Probably in a couple of months. And let me tell you, man, I might not come back just because, it's Thailand. I encourage anyone who's never been to Thailand to go. Your money over there, especially if you're American, your money over there is like Monopoly money. Depending on the time of year you go, the plane ticket can cost you anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000. Between like December and February, that's the peak season. And actually, it's from about August until March. Those plane tickets are expensive. It varies by airline, but dude, man, I went in 2008, and I almost didn't come back. And the only reason I came back was because I had a 2-year-old son. But now my son is 20. And he's going to go with me. I'd tell you all about how awesome Thailand is, but YouTube would demonetize me. Rumble wouldn't, because Rumble's cool. But I'm currently streaming on both. But there's so much to say about Thailand. Jesus. And the thing is I went over there. I had met some Thai girl online before I went. And, I was very naive. I didn't know anything about Thailand at the time. And I believed her when she told me she fell in love with me, right? Online. I should have known better, but God, she was gorgeous. And then I went over there. And I told her before I got there, that I spent the majority of the money I had saved just getting there. Because literally I did. The plane ticket was like $2,000, and I've only brought $700 with me for 9 days. But that $700, dude, I went, all I did was sightsee I spent money everywhere. I ate out all the time, of course. I'm in a foreign country. What else am I going to do? I was in a 4-star hotel, had room service every night, and I brought home souvenirs for my entire family at the time, everybody I was living with, and my boss at the Chinese restaurant I was working at. $700 for 9 days. Unreal. But I didn't even dive in to all of the crazy seedy stuff that Thailand is famous for. Nana Plaza. Yeah. Do a Google search on Nana Plaza. N-A-N-A. Bangkok. Whoo! Because that's where I went. And I didn't even go there. Like I said, I was there to meet up with this girl. Yeah. Yeah, and after 3 days, when she noticed I didn't have money to be blowing on her left and right, she disappeared after 3 days. But it's okay, because, yeah. I ended up meeting some others and had quite a blast. Yeah, I can't even tell you about it. You know what? I'll put it in the comments. There you go. If you're on Rumble, check out the comments. I'm not even going to put it on YouTube because nobody's watching on YouTube. That wasn't Wares, by the way. Swap one of those E's with an O. Anyway, Thailand is amazing. It's beautiful too. Like I said, I went there just to meet this girl. I didn't even plan. I didn't even have an itinerary. I didn't have a plan. I just landed over there and didn't do any research. I mean, this is 2008. There wasn't even YouTube videos at the time, you know. YouTube was a baby at the time. There was nothing like it is today. I mean, even the internet wasn't really full of information on it. So, yeah, I didn't even get to exploit the city like I would now. But when I'm going back now. I'm going to go to Pattaya. I'm going to hang out in Pattaya. I'm going to go check out Koh Phi Phi, the Phi Phi Islands. I'm going to go to Phuket. And I'm going to land in Bangkok. So I'm probably going to spend a day or two in Bangkok. Just because it's such a great city. It's such a great city. And the people are so much nicer. I'll tell you of a culture shock moment that I had. It was a defining moment for me. When I was in a cab. And I was sitting in traffic. And it was rush hour. It was like 5 o'clock in the evening, give or take. You know, it was when everybody's getting off work. And I noticed we were sitting at this red light for a long time. Like, longer than 5 minutes. And that's a long time to sit at a red light, right? So, I started getting upset. Like, what are we doing? Right? Because, you know, the meter's running on the thing. And we're just sitting there. So I start looking around and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm noticing that everybody else in every other car in traffic is laughing and smiling and pointing. And I'm like, the hell are they looking at? So I start looking around and I finally notice. Now, see, most of their red lights, well, not most, but a fair amount of the red lights over there are actually manually controlled, which means there's a guy in a booth who hits green and red based on what side needs to go. Well, apparently this guy in the booth had passed out. He had fallen asleep and he was out, like head back, mouth open. Now, what would happen if that were to happen here in America? People would be getting pissed off, blowing the horn, screaming and yelling and cussing. Not one single horn blew. Not one single angry face. People were laughing. One person got out of the car, walked up to the booth, politely tapped on it, had to tap again because they didn't knock loud enough. And when the guy woke up, they were all like, you know, this and that. The guy was obviously embarrassed. He looked mortified. And then she got back in her car, And we drove on. And I was just sitting there like a dumbass American having a culture shock moment. Like, those people are so happy. It will change your life. I'm telling you, it really will. It'll really change your life. It was just a hell of a perspective. That's really, if that shit happened in America, somebody might have gotten shot, depending on where it is. You know? But yeah, that was one of those moments I had. It was beautiful. Thailand is a wonderful place. It really is. I highly encourage anyone to go just for some perspective and get you some culture. And man, the food. Oh, God, the food. Best food in the world. I don't care if you don't like Asian food or if you think some of their stuff is weird. You're right. Some of their food is weird, Asian food. But they are highly accommodating to Western civilization. You can eat, if you eat street food over there, you can eat for cheaper. It's cheaper to buy and eat street food over there than it is to cook food in your own place. Like, it's mind-blowing. It really is. Now, to be fair, they don't have a health department over there. And you might feel like some of their practices are a little, whoa, what the hell are they doing, right? But, interesting fact, out of all of the food that I ate there, and I ate a lot of street food, out of all the food that I ate there, the only place that made me sick was when I ordered Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut. A chain. The only place that made me sick. And that was weird. Like, they've got 10 or 12 digit phone numbers normally over there, but when you order KFC, Pizza Hut, McDonald's, there's about 5 different places. You call one number, and it's a 4-digit phone number. It was like 1170. And they showed up in 15 minutes. And I ordered McDonald's too. And the thing about McDonald's, the reason I ordered McDonald's, I hate McDonald's, but I had to try it over there because they make their burgers at the McDonald's in Thailand. They make their burgers with pork. So all the cheeseburgers, everything, none of it's beef. It's all pork. And you'd think it might taste different. Nope, it didn't taste a damn bit different. It tasted just like McDonald's. So that should tell you something. Yeah, it was wild. I highly suggest everybody, go to Thailand. If you're on Rumble, read the comment I dropped in the live chat. That wasn't supposed to be wares. Thailand is an awesome place, and I am going in a couple of months. If you're just joining us, I'm using the front-facing camera today because my other camera, my good camera, is outside taking a time-lapse video. That ought to be pretty cool. And I am just perusing BS on Facebook because I like to have a good laugh in the morning. So I'm still looking for my good laugh. Ooh. There's nothing really going on in the news. Let's see what they're talking about over here on Fox.
Cost of living, you said yourself, nothing in this speech is new. You've got the Australian Prime Minister earlier talking about slashing tax on petrol and diesel, telling people not to use more than they need. Can you be really clear to people at home listening to this? Should they be looking at changing their behaviours now?
Well, in terms of the situation, we're monitoring it carefully. We had a Cobra meeting looking at the ongoing impacts here in Britain yesterday.
Oil's coming down.
That is being monitored daily.
Look at it.
I had
That's oil futures.
Business sector in on Monday to discuss with them. This was shipping, finance, insurance. To discuss with them mainly how we deal with the Strait of Hormuz, how quickly we can get action there to get the supply open or fully open. And that is what we are doing. They're decisions that we think are right. Here, and we will continue to do that. But I emphasise, again, it's clear to me that the main determinant now of the impact is going to be how long the conflict goes on and the question of how quickly we can get safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. And the two don't necessarily go together.
That's Brent, crude oil.
In other words, I don't think it can necessarily be assumed that a de-escalation of the conflict necessarily at the same time brings the full reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, and that's why we're moving to the next level of planning in relation to the Strait of Hormuz. We've been dealing with this for some time, but now we move to the next stage with the Foreign Secretary meeting coming up later this week, the first time we've convened that coalition, if you like, of countries to look at diplomatic means, political means, and then the military planners coming together at a separate meeting to look at capabilities. Thank you very much, Andy. And I should say, Andy, congratulations to your daughter on the gold medal, I think, that she's just got.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Prime Minister. Prime Minister, actually following on partly from Lucy's question, I mean, in other parts of the world, there is much more of a sense of leaders preparing their populations to say, this is hard, you may have to do things differently. Yet from your government so far, we've heard behave as normal, even book your summer holidays as normal. Isn't it time maybe to address the British people and say, perhaps we have to start thinking about our behaviour in a different way?
Well, a number of points in response to that. Firstly, there are a number of measures we're taking. The direct measures in relation to energy price, the support for oil, fuel duty, the wider measures, most of which come in either today or this week on the cost of living, which are not a response to this particular conflict, but are a response to the fact that the cost of living has been the number one issue in our country for a very long time. And I'm conscious that whatever's going on in the world, whatever's going on in politics, that remains the number one issue. In relation to the situation, we are monitoring it very carefully on a daily basis. And our assessment it looks at supply, looks at the impact on our economy, and we'll keep the measures we've got in place at the moment. I'm absolutely convinced that the most important thing is de-escalation. The most important thing is getting the Strait of Hormuz back fully open, and that's why we're putting a lot of effort into the next stage of that.
What effort are you putting in?
And as I've said, we're prepared to take a sort of leadership role in that as the United Kingdom in relation to the Straits of Hormuz. Thank you, Andy. I've got Paul from Channel 4. Paul.
Are you worried that using your home address for business puts your privacy at risk? At iPostal One, we can help.
Shut up.
You've started your
Sorry.
own company, but feel unsafe using your home address
commercials.
for business use. Not only does every...
You know, I used to have... I used to have I used to pay for YouTube, you know, premium or whatever it is with the no commercials. And I did that just for you guys. So I'm just a little broke at the moment and I can't afford stuff like that. So I apologize when those commercials pop up.
Because of this war. And the criticism is that you've been dithering. So have you been...
I like to listen to other countries' news sources just to hear what the narrative is over there, because it's always slightly different. You know what I mean? Plus, the way Trump has been talking to other world leaders, it's helpful to hear what, you know, the average foreign citizen is saying in their country. You know what I mean? Because we've got our own narratives over here, and every country has their own propaganda. So, yeah.
Affect me. And what they mean by that is it could have an effect on the cost of living. We've been saying the cost of living is the single number one issue for a very long time. So
yeah, you ain't doing nothing about it, are you? Excuse me. You're
not
doing anything, are you?
The cost of living, because I've been clear that that is the central issue, and that is I think for most people in the country, that's the thing they're probably worrying most about today. So we're actually ahead of the game in relation to that, because we took those measures at the budget. The only reason energy bills are coming down today by an average of £100 is because of the measures that we took at the budget, and they'll be down for 3 months. So those measures have been taken. In relation to what might be needed later in the year, obviously we're working through contingencies. A lot of it will depend on how long the conflict goes on, how quickly the straits are open, because it's very difficult to assess at the moment what might be needed, say, in the...
I just found France news. But no, I'm not. I'm sorry. I didn't find. I was looking for France news, and I found the UN live stream. So I want to go over there and see what they're saying.
go out there and be myself.
And my everyday essential is connection. For me, connection is feeling seen, valued and supported by my friends, my family and my wider community.
I would love if everyone treat everyone else.
Who's waiting for some investments to pay off? Anybody got anything they want to?
It's the rights of indigenous peoples to our lands, territories, and resources.
Those rights that guarantee my safety, that ensures my academic stability as a professional athlete. Of course, I affirm my dignity and equality put on an offer.
My everyday essentials for human rights.
I'm getting the sense here that they're not going to tell us anything we give a shit about.
Regardless of who we are, where we live, or what we do, we all want the same things.
More or less.
Pushback against human rights in one part of the world or against one group of people harms us all. Our rights connect us all.
That Biden? Yeah, it would be nice if we could get along across the world, but you know, the problem isn't necessarily human rights violations. I mean, that's a big problem, don't get me wrong. That being said, why haven't all these other countries come together with us against Iran? And I'll tell you why. Because they're chicken shit. Everybody agrees, almost the entire world agrees that Iran's regime is dangerous. And they're closer to Iran. So that fear is what's paralyzing them. And it's why Donald Trump is pissed off at so many of them. I don't know if he should go about it the way he's going about it, but that's just me. I would be more tactful. You know what I mean? Trump just doesn't give a shit. But, yeah. The fact of the matter is Iran is guilty of so many crimes against humanity. It's not even funny. And, you know, if you don't support Israel, you know, you're free to do that. You're free to feel that way. But you need to keep in mind that there's not one war ever in history. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. But there's not been one war in world history involving Israel that wasn't them defending themselves. Every conflict they've gotten into, they've been on the defensive. And I'm not saying they haven't, you know, blown places to hell. Of course they have. But every single time they do something, it's usually in response to something that's been done to them. And Iran and their theocratic nonsense and the garbage that fuels their government is prophecy, by the way. You know, they believe that that God has told them to destroy Israel because one of their, you know, prophets did. They had 12 imams after Muhammad, and that 12th imam was the one who said that he'll return and bring the world peace after you destroy Israel. Yeah. Those sound like human ambitions there, bros. That doesn't sound like any kind of real prophecy. Fucking cavemen over there, man. For real. So, their ridiculous prophecy is what fuels all their political moves. They believe they should destroy Israel. So what do? They create proxies around the world because they're not neighbors with Israel. Sure, yeah, they're close, but there's other countries that are closer. And that is precisely what Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis, that's all that they are. They are proxy armies that Iran funds to attack Israel for them because they're closer. And what do? They hide weapons in civilian locations like schools and civilian locations in neighborhoods, everyday neighborhoods. Why do they do that? Because when Israel responds and fires back in defense of themselves, Iran can then say, look, they attacked our schools. They're attacking civilians. They do that specifically to dominate the media narrative. And if you believe a shred of what Iran says, you got a serious problem. I'm getting about sick of so-called Americans on social media just completely oblivious to these things and just supporting Iran's Islamic Republic because they'll support anything that's against Trump. It's so idiotic to me. Like, okay, I understand you don't like Trump, and that's fine. You can hate Trump all you want. I don't care. But don't let it blind you from the facts. And the facts are Iran is filled with theocratic bullshit. That's what fuels everything they do. And they have committed countless atrocities. They have executed over 1 million people in the last 40 years. All of which were like freedom fighters and protesters and I assume women who didn't cover their face. It's illegal for them to be unaccompanied by a man in public. It's illegal for women to sing and dance in the street. They inscript 12-year-olds for their military. There was a moment, I forget when it was, but they sent a group of kids and the elderly into a minefield because they needed to clear the path. And they sent these people through a minefield, kids and old people, and gave them a plastic golden key and told them it was a key to paradise. If they died in the service of Allah, they're instantly going to go to heaven. If you don't see a problem with that, now, is it our business? That's a totally fair argument. And typically, I am of that thought process, that belief system, to where we shouldn't meddle with other countries' affairs. However, the United States is in a very unique position. We're the most advanced civilization on the planet. We have vast resources. Our economy dwarfs just about anybody else's. Yeah, you don't need to mention China and Russia and what they're doing. Yeah, I get that. Some people just want to argue on the internet. But we're in a unique position in America to where if someone needs help and you have the ability to help them, personally, I believe you should. Like, I see somebody broke down on the side of the road and I usually pull over and check just to make sure they're okay, because I care about my fellow man, and that is the position that we should be taking when it comes to whether or not you support the war. I don't support any war, but we're in one, and we didn't have to get involved. But Iran has had this coming for decades, and you damn well know it. If you think we shouldn't be in this war, that's fine, but we are. Get over it. Anyway, okay, I'm done with my ranting. The dollar. This is a 1% move, so I wouldn't say that that's that big of a deal. Let's squoosh it up and see how it looks over time. Let's give it 1 day. Goddamn, 1 day candles. I love TradingView. It's so awesome. So each candle is 1 day, right? Isn't that interesting? What's this coming today? Oh, damn. Okay, so we got the minutes coming out today, manufacturing and retail sales. Look at this. Sorry for all the BS in my on this chart. You can see which way it's going. I could take that off, but then it would remove it for all of my other charts, and I ain't trying to do all that. All right, I'm back to the 5 minute, baby. Right, Brent crude oil on the way down, baby. Short it, short it. If I had some cash, I would. Nano crude oil futures shorted. What are we saying over here on Fox News? What are you talking about?
Australia moving, making sure that we are prepared so that if the global situation gets worse and our fuel supplies are seriously disrupted over the long term, we can coordinate the next steps together. Today, we cut the fuel excise in half, cutting the tax on every litre of petrol by 26 cents. Those savings have started showing up at your petrol station. For our truckies, we have cut the heavy vehicle road user charge to zero. Both these measures will be in place for the next 3 months.
That's good.
We are working to bring the price of fuel down.
That's
to
good.
make more fuel here and to keep it on shore and
That's
get
pretty good.
more fuel here using our strong trading relationships.
Yeah, you know, we should be doing something similar to that. The reason we're not, though, is because, you know, we've got plenty of reserves. We've got plenty to throw into our market.
Their bit. And there are simple ways that you can. You should go about your business and your life as normal. Enjoy your Easter. And if you're hitting the road, don't take more fuel than you need. Just fill up like you normally would. Think of others in your community, in the bush, and in critical industries. And over coming weeks, if you can switch to catching the train or bus or tram to work, do so. That builds our reserves and it saves fuel for people who have no choice but to drive. Farmers and miners and tradies who need diesel every single day. And all those shift workers and nurses who do so much for our country. The months ahead may not be easy. I want to be upfront about that. No government can promise to eliminate the pressures that this war is causing. I can promise we will do everything we can to protect Australia from the worst of it. These are uncertain times, but I'm absolutely certain of this. We will deal with these global challenges the Australian way, working together and looking after each other, as we always have. Thank you and good evening.
And that was the brief address that we had from the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese earlier today. World leaders continuing to react to some of the disruptions that we are seeing at the Strait of Hormuz and how that is causing a lot of these fuel prices to spike around the world. We're going to step away for a quick commercial break. When we come back, though, going back to another one of the top stories that we're following very closely, and that is the Artemis II mission.
Yes, I'm aware of the Artemis mission. They just don't have shit to talk about. They're saying over Newsmax.
Coming up, the King and Queen heading to the colonies next month. That's right, King Charles and...
Yeah, whoop-de-doo. I don't care. Yeah, that's actually a real king.
This is the Reclamus aspa. It's a species of bamboo.
We are actually targeting at creating over 150,000 direct jobs. We have so far established about 2,800 hectares of bamboo.
Yeah, hectare.
No matter what you drive, there's only one guarantee. It's gonna break down.
I had a sensor light up on my dashboard.
There was a popping noise.
The last thing I remember is just the engine cut out.
Your next breakdown could be anytime, anywhere, whether you've got the money to fix it or not.
It was a thermostat, $2,600.
Seat sensor, $1,400.
Man, nobody's paying that much for a fucking thermostat. You out of your damn mind? And nobody's paying that much for a thermostat. Now, I don't know, maybe they were building cars different these days, but a thermostat's pretty easily accessible. Pull it out, pop it in. $5 to $20 for the part. I don't imagine they've made it easier to do this when it comes to cars and working on them because I understand that they vary, but that's just insane. Did she say $1,600 to replace your fucking what?
Submit the claim directly to Endurance. They get paid.
Taking us out to the live images that we have of the Artemis 2 launch.
Dude, it's not going to launch for 10 hours. And they keep on popping back over to it. Let's check in on the rocket that we know hasn't moved. But we don't have a dick to talk about. Got that damn song stuck in my head. I got it stuck in my head.
1 million species are at risk of extinction.
Yep. There's one of them that's really at risk of extinction. Us.
The second element that is an obstacle is the institutional and regulatory environment in most countries, which...
I hate it when there's no news because all they play is garbage. BS, filler, baloney. Speaking of baloney, that's what I'm probably going to eat today. Yeah, today. Ooh, what's this? What is it? Bloomberg finally got something important to say.
And I'm Ed Ludlow in San Francisco.
Now there's advertising their little program where they do say stuff. But are they saying stuff now? No. There isn't shit in the news yet. But to be fair, it's still early. Not even 8 o'clock. I guess this is why most people don't get on this early to do their live streams when it comes to stock market and investments and whatnot. But I just love you guys so much. I can't wait to get on here and see that I've got 2 people watching. But hey, I appreciate the hell out of you guys. Why don't you drop a like? Maybe that'll encourage more people to show up. Because, you know, here we talk about all sorts of stuff, baby. We talk about news. We talk about funny stuff. We talk about money. Music. If it comes up. Travel. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, you poof. Come on, drop a like. Do us a favour. Drop a like. Like. Silver taking a run up because the dollar's... So silver's going to run up, as will gold. Wow, look at that. That's pretty good. That was pretty good. Wow, that's only in an hour. Is it? Really? No. I'm an idiot. Oh, yeah, me mucho stupido. Yeah. That is from... Oh, that's about 12 hours. Yeah, that's about 18 hours. Look at NVIDIA yesterday, man. They had a great day, didn't they? That still isn't good enough. I had a couple of calls that ended up expiring and worthless. Should have bought them a little further out, huh? Market, pre-market hasn't even started yet, so this hasn't moved and won't until then. Super Micro did a pretty decent day yesterday, but they got a lot to make up for because of that 30% drop, because of that dickhead who tried to smuggle chips into China. What is wrong with you? Oh, I know what's wrong with you. You're greedy. It was billions of dollars worth of tech. Can you imagine being the sort of person who's in that position and actually finds a fence to offload this shit to? And then you get caught. Oh, your life is over. You thought you were going to pocket billions, but instead you're eating bologna sandwiches and fucking honey buns in jail. Honey bun doesn't sound quite bad. It doesn't sound half bad, to be honest. And anybody who's been to jail knows that bologna sandwich probably the best thing you're going to get. I don't know about where you live, but I live in South Carolina. And the food in the jails. Yes, I've been to jails. That's how I know. But, yeah. I spent 6 months in county jail for some BS. I won't get into that. That's actually been expunged. But yeah, the food, Jesus Christ, the food is so horrible, so bad. Like, I made a graph to track the meals, right? And it took me a month, but I figured out the entire schedule because it was a month. It was a month-long schedule, you know. Just kept track of it for a month, and then boom. Anyway, they had this one dish. Now, mind you, I don't know about where you live, but in Charleston County Jail, not prison, jail, they don't serve chicken because too much risk of people getting sick. They don't serve pork because they don't want to offend Jews and Muslims. They don't serve beef because it's just expensive. So the only meat that you get in Charleston County Detention Center, when I was there 18 years ago, I don't imagine it's gotten any better. The only meat that they serve the inmates is turkey. You might be thinking, that's fine, I could deal with that. Nah. They had this one dish that they called barbecue. Ugh. Dude, it literally smelled like actual puke. Like, I'm not exaggerating. It was horrible. And I could plan ahead, though, once I saw the pattern. So, that was my peanut butter and jelly sandwich day. Yeah, don't go to jail. 1 star. Do not recommend.
We need to solve this as a united alliance.
Admiral, can the alliance exist, though, without the support of the United States?
This is a great question. So, Mr. Trump, during the La Haye summit last summer, he achieved to ask to the allies to spend 3.5% of their GDP for their own defense. That comes by the fact that the US have other priorities. They are not only focused on Europe, and the crisis in Iran is a good demonstration of what they say. So it's a moment for Europeans to stand up and to do largely more than they have been habited to, they did before. During the post-Cold War decades, the Europeans have been somehow the free riders of their own security. Today, there is a great change, and now we need to ramp up in all domains and to be able not to do without the US, but largely with smaller force of the US, given the other commitment these US forces have over the world.
Admiral, is it ability or will to potentially help the United States when it comes to reopening the Strait of Hormuz? I was struck by the UK Defense Secretary Minister in an interview really struggling to answer basic questions, even about how many frigates the UK has.
What'd you call me?
Presently at the moment.
We inherit
you damn frigate
investment in all domains, in the industry, in the weapons stockpiles, in the military, in the number of soldiers. So it's not by a flick of a switch that we will change that. That means a strong, long-lasting commitment from the Europeans to be able to ramp up. So we inherit a very bad situation, and I think it's time now to wake up.
Given the fact that there is a lot of questions right now about the U.S. and the U.S.'s role with NATO, how likely is it that in 5 years NATO will still exist?
It's a very political question. I think we don't kill. We inherit a system which is a good one. In fact, in other parts of the world, I think most of the allies we discuss with, and especially in the Pacific, they are saying we should have something that looks like NATO. So NATO is how it is. It's a big organization, but it's a one where we discuss on every day. You have more than 12,000 military that on a daily basis, they work on plans, they work on interoperability, they work on training, they work on concepts. So this is a goal in our hands. And so I think it's a moment where we need to have cool hands and not saying, okay, because there is a crisis, we will kill the baby. I think it's a moment we have an heritage. We have something that works. I think it's a moment where all the stakeholders need to be responsible. They need to they need to say, okay, what we inherit, and with this this alliance, I think there is a lot to do still, and killing it will not make the world safer.
There was some questions about the fact that missiles were lobbed at Turkey from Iran, and that this potentially could
because
engage
they're
NATO
pieces
more
of
directly
shit
in the conflict. What's your response to that?
So some measures have been taken by Secure. It's the U.S. General Gringovich, which is in charge of that kind of answers. And so he has taken measures in order to be sure that the NATO AOR, so area of responsibility, is well protected against the will of Iran to spread the crisis outside of its borders.
Admiral, before you go, can I get clarification on something? Can you confirm whether Iran did try to strike the Diego Garcia base in the Indian Ocean? Because we're still trying to gauge what their range actually is. What do you know about that?
All we know is that they
So
lied.
They have tried to send a
Iran.
three-stage ballistic missile,
Get that
which
right.
is much more looking like a commercial rocket. I think it was a messaging, and they are trying to demonstrate their ability to expand and to spill the crisis outside the Middle East. It's their strategy. And so I think it's a moment where, back to the islands, it's a moment where I think we need to show that we are united. We are committed to defend 1 billion plus citizens over the world and not kill the baby at a moment of tension, which I fully understand.
Admiral, thanks for making time for us this morning. Very sensitive moment, and we appreciate your time, sir. Thank you. The NATO Commander for Transformation, Admiral Pierre Vandier, on the future of this alliance and the operational difficulties at the moment.
Yeah, and how difficult it is.
This guy, what the hell? I'm sorry. I had the wrong audio up. I'm such a retard. I am not awake yet.
What's left of you will make you cry, and it will make you feel. But most of all, I hope it will help you to more deeply understand the gravity of the injustice done to the Palestinian people and the urgency of ending this ongoing Nakba to enable our people to finally realize justice and to live in freedom, dignity, and peace.
Oh my God. I'm still a retard.
Everybody has a moment.
Right. I got the right shit on now. Sorry, I'm not quite awake yet. That being said, I'm going to go grab me another cup of coffee, and I'm going to leave you with the actual UN news. Apparently, I'm a retard, and I had the wrong shit on in the background. Now, this looks fake. You heard it. It sounded fake. But I'm going to put it on. You make your own decision.
Palestinian history. The film uses the story of one family led by the patriarch and his descendants to illustrate the continuous Nakba and the evolution of Palestinian resistance and identity. This remarkable film also explores one of humanity's most profound acts of generosity, organ donation, through an intimate lens that challenges us to consider the questions of identity, legacy, connection, which transcends borders.
Yeah, there's something weird about this video. And I feel like I know where she's going. This looks like a pro-Palestine or some other BS. These fucking propaganda bullshit.
And peace.
Yes, 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 we all want peace, honey. But in a world with a ridiculous government like Iran, sorry, Iran needs to, well, let me be clear. The Islamic Republic needs to die. And I am not sorry to say that. I will say that forever. If you're unclear as to why they should die, I urge you to go watch the last 2 long-form videos that I made about it. Why something about why is Iran and Israel at it, and then another one was they're both linked to each other. So if you watch either one of them, there's a link to the other one at the end of that video. Artemis rocket. Trying to find something to leave you with, so I'm not leaving you with something stupid. Newsmax it is.
Not one of the things I had as a goal. I had one goal. They will have no nuclear weapon. And that goal has been attained. They will not have nuclear weapons.
I shall return, okay?
We're finishing the job, and I think
President Trump is doing what no other president.
I shall return. I'll be back.
Previous presidents were all talk. He's all action.
It's difficult. I mean, if it were easy, everybody would be doing it. But it's important that we do this. As you said, we haven't been in a long time. The first time we went was for political reasons. We wanted to beat the Soviet Union. But this time we want to go for not just politics. We are in a space race. That's the political side of it. But we want to go for scientific purposes. There's so much that can be learned about our solar system, about the Earth, about how it evolved from studying the moon.
That's a former astronaut talking about the significance of the Artemis II launch coming up this evening. He'll be joining First Edition later this hour.
And President Trump speaking with reporters about the war with Iran and when it could be ending. The president planning a primetime address tonight.
Stay with us, folks.
First Edition starts right now.
Good morning and welcome to the second hour of First Edition, only on Newsmax 2. I'm John Burnett.
And I'm Krisha Lenzo. It's Wednesday, April 1st, also known as April Fool's Day. So be careful out there. There's a lot of tricks going on.
Already been tricked this morning.
Always tricks. But in terms of tonight, on a more serious note, President Trump is giving a prime time address this evening at 9 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be a very important update on the war in Iran, our progress. And what we've been seeing thus far, he's been signaling a potential end to the war coming in 2 to 3 weeks, longer than what he initially said. But of course, we've heard from Secretary of State Marco Rubio talking about how we've decimated Iran's military, their navy, and as well as their missile capabilities. Not to the fullest extent, because of course, we're still seeing Iran fire off missiles into Israel and throughout the Gulf, but clearly decimated to a point where we feel that we may have come to somewhat of a conclusion.
Exactly. The remaining issue and challenge is the Strait of Hormuz.
Right.
It's not only in the national interest of the United States, but all of the industrialized nations around the world, as well as nations that heavily rely on farming. Why? Because as we already know, we talked about several times on this show, the entire global supply chain and production depends on oil directly and oil derivatives. So that is crucial for all production, including our food supply. But first, turning to this, a manhunt is underway for an American journalist kidnapped by suspected Iran-backed terrorists in Iraq.
With authorities identifying a few clues in their search, our national correspondent Alana Austin is live on Capitol Hill with the latest. Good morning, Alana.
Hey, good morning, Krisha and John. And of course, this is a disturbing story to share with you. Armed men grabbed Shelley Kittleson, an American freelance journalist who had been reporting from the Middle East for about a decade. And now they have apprehended at least one suspect. Now, they have not announced, according to the Iraqi officials investigating here, the names behind that individual. Since this happened earlier this week, reports indicate that one person was taken into custody after a high-speed chase, a vehicle overturned. So that has been taken into custody for this ongoing investigation. But there are sadly no confirmed reports yet on Kittleson's current status. The 49-year-old freelancer reported mostly from places like Afghanistan, Syria, and Iraq, posting in recent days from assignments covering counterterrorism operations in the region. Now, the State Department says she had been warned repeatedly in the days leading up to her kidnapping that the paramilitary group Kataib Hezbollah was trying to hunt down or kill female journalists. Now, one of Kittleson's friends, a CNN national security analyst, Alex Platasis, explains here. He says Shelley is one of the kindest people you'll ever meet. She is religious and doesn't have a mean bone in her body. She is a journalist who has lived and worked in the region and Central Asia for nearly 2 decades. She's been thoroughly vetted in Iraq, and the PMF knows she's a civilian. Now, Kittleson's friend says the family is going to take it from here. They are asking for privacy at this time. However, they are appreciating the kind words and the influx of prayers coming in. Reporting live on Capitol Hill, Alana Austin, Newsmax.
You know, Alana, the president is scheduled to speak tonight, and many people are saying, as he actually conveyed to the world, that the war is coming to an end. Could something like this serve to re-escalate the tensions with Iran?
Yeah, it's interesting because we did hear there could be a major announcement tonight, and from other world leaders as well. We're still anxiously and eagerly awaiting what this will be, but certainly from national security experts, since this abduction of a U.S. journalist took place, we heard it could really change the tone and the tenor of the conversations. I will note this same group, which is separate from Hezbollah, but is still considered a Shia militant group. There was an Israeli researcher that was taken into custody. She was freed under this Trump administration after 903 days. She had ties to America as well, and she had been transferred to the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. But think about how long another woman had been taken into custody by the known terrorist groups, and then it took years of work to get her back safely. So hopefully that will not be the same case in this circumstance.
Absolutely. Keep hope alive.
Yeah.
We appreciate your report, Alana Austin.
Thanks, Alana. Well, moving on to this, President Trump signing an executive order last night cracking down on mail-in voting, less than 7 months before the midterm elections.
Really?
The states, right, run these elections. They will, if they want.
I think it's going to be really great. So if you don't mind, I will take some time and I'll make this signature absolutely perfect. So it looks very good. So far, so good.
Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick sharing more details about the order.
The states, right, run these elections. They will, if they want to use the U.S. mail, the U.S. Postal Service, they're going to get a code, a barcode from the U.S. Postal Service, and they're going to put that on the envelope, and we will have one envelope per vote. None of this time where we have no idea, there's no observers to mail, there's no envelopes, there's no certainty. That's all going to go away, and what the president is doing today is he's going to make sure that mail-in ballots are safe, secure, and accurate, and will have a clear distinction. If you voted by mail, you will have it on the envelope. Obviously not on the ballot, but on the envelope. So we will know 1 million mail-in ballots. There'll be 1 million envelopes, and you'll be able to know exactly, correctly, that citizens voted.
Joining us now to discuss our political panel, Bill Caruso is a Democrat strategist, and also with us is Anthony D'Esposito, a former New York congressman. Good morning, gentlemen. Happy April Fools to you.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning.
So yesterday on First Edition, we aired comments from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon. Actually, you know what? I can't help but to actually get your opinion on the signing of the order first before we get too deep. Let me get your opinion on this, Bill, because many Democrats are pushing back on what the president just signed. So I want to get your take on that before we go into additional topic. What say you?
Well, we don't know. I mean, listen, there's potentially going to be a challenge in the court. I'm not crazy about changing the rules this close to the end of the game. And, you know, vote by mail generally has been a convenience for folks. It's been an opportunity for folks to exercise their constitutional right. By and large, it's been proven to be safe. I think the president learned in 2020 by downplaying it and that it was hurting Republican voters, right, by not having it out there. Can we make it more secure? Sure. By the way, there was a bill in Congress that was moving that got larded up, that the SAVE Act, that would have done some of this. I guess he's bailing on that now on a legislative route and going the executive route. We'll see where it goes. I go back to this point. Not a big fan of changing the rules of the game when we get too close to the end.
Well, speaking of April Fools, Anthony, I mean, are we fools that we don't already have some constraints on mail-in voting as well as voter ID? It's clear that the House didn't want to go forward with any of the DHS funding because of the SAVE Act and where we stand right now with respect to election integrity. What's your take on this complex issue?
Well, I think that we're in a scary place when we're actually debating whether American citizens should be the only ones that are voting in American elections. But nonetheless, I think President Trump took an excellent step yesterday in securing our elections and just making them more secure for those who want to utilize mail-in ballots. I think that as we've seen, whether it's in my home state of New York, where now Republicans are embracing early voting, I think as long as we make the steps secure, and as was mentioned, I think trying to get people to the polls and making it more convenient is important, but they also need to be secure so that every person who deserves a vote gets their vote.
Exactly. And many states actually have early voting, so that is a reprieve. So let's make sure that all votes are received and counted on Election Day. That's what the American people want. But yesterday on First Edition, we aired comments from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon. Here's what he said about boots on the ground.
You can't fight and win a war if you tell your adversary what you are willing to do or what you are not willing to do, to include boots on the ground. Our adversary right now thinks there are 15 different ways we could come at them with boots on the ground. And guess what? There are.
That's right. Keep them guessing. And tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, President Trump will address the nation on Iran. But when you actually watch it here on Newsmax, we hope that you join us, stay throughout the post commentary as well. What do you expect the president to say tonight, Bill?
John, I have no idea. And I'm saying that to be pejorative. I really have no idea. I'm hoping we're going to hear some ideas on what the closure of this excursion or whatever he's calling it is. And to be honest, I think our goals have shifted. I heard your clip earlier where he said we never wanted regime change. I'm pretty sure I heard him say that. So, well, I would love to know if we are winding this down. That's fantastic. What have we accomplished? What does this look like? By the way, I know his feeling now is that the Strait of Hormuz is not our problem. It's other people's problem. What's the plan for that long term? Because looking at the gas pump right now, that looks to be a problem that we're facing here. So I think that's what he needs to accomplish in this discussion tonight. I think it's a little bit overdue. And, you know, what are we doing there? What have we accomplished? And what's the long run look like?
Anthony, what are you expecting to hear? What are you hoping to hear in terms of the president's remarks this evening, as well as the fact that our allies have not stood with us? President Trump has been very vocal about how NATO really has not stepped up to the plate. We have seen France, Italy, and other nations not even provide Israel airspace to carry out the mission.
Yeah, so I think, first of all, we're going to hear from our commander-in-chief, and it's going to be someone who's confident, someone who shows leadership and is going to break down piece by piece the steps that have been taken in order to eliminate the terrorist regime in Iran, to eliminate their nuclear capabilities, and to decimate the terrorist proxies that want to cause harm to the United States of America. I also think that we're going to hear about what is next. What is the plan of the United States of America? What are we willing to do? What can we do? And obviously, President Trump never holds back. He's going to be very clear and concise on the work that the United States of America did. He's going to be truly, I believe, thankful to the men and women who served this great nation in uniform and put their lives on the line to defend democracy and defend freedom. And I also think he's going to be very clear and pointed to our allies and the fact that the United States of America has led these efforts, that this is something that should have been done for probably 4 decades, but presidents on both sides of the aisle just toyed with eliminating the terrorists in Iran. And President Trump stepped up and actually did what he said was going to do, and that was not just make America safer again, but make this world safer.
So true. Promises made, promises kept. But turning to another international hotspot, Cuba. The grandson of Cuba's late dictator, Fidel Castro, Sando Castro, spoke about how young people in Cuba view communism versus capitalism.
We actually would welcome, he says, speaking for himself, a deal with Donald Trump. What would your grandfather, Fidel Castro, say that you're more capitalist than communist?
My grandfather was a person who had his principles like everyone else, but he also respected others' opinions. There are many people in Cuba that think in a capitalistic way. There are many people here who want to have capitalism with sovereignty.
You know, that's very interesting, Bill. When you look at how many of the Cubans view capitalism versus communism, it might be similar to how some of the youth right here in America view capitalism and communism. What's your take?
Well, they're experiencing it in the reality that they're in the shadow of one of the wealthiest, most successful.
Yeah.
As we do know, that is slated to happen a little bit later.
They're still talking about that.
From the team down in Washington, that the Treasury Department was already modeling as high as $200 a barrel, as they should. This is what happens when the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and then potentially you have to add in the Houthis. You're going to see prices elevated higher for longer.
I'm sure most teams on Wall Street are going through different scenarios.
I
It's just
mean-
that when you get reporting like that, it suggests that this is what the president thinks crude is going to hit at any given time, and they're not telling you.
Yeah, my question is, why didn't they do this 5 weeks ago? Because then maybe we could have gotten ahead of this. Just say.
Up next on the programme, we'll get you some morning calls. Plus, Yelena Shiletseva at the conference board with fresh jobs data on deck. That conversation up next from New York City.
They've been talking about this 200 a barrel now for weeks. We're sitting right at 100. Do I believe that it will go up? It's certainly possible. It's possible with the next bit of bad information, the next mention of what we're doing in Iran. If we put more troops on the ground, if we don't get that shit open soon, the Strait of Hormuz needs to be opened. But here in America, we're not going to see too much of a price increase. We'll probably see a little bit of pain at the pump, but we've got so much in our own reserves. We're fairly shielded from that. And while tensions remain where they're at, Bitcoin will still hold up pretty good. Soon as shit pops off, though, Bitcoin may take a good run. We are 8:15, still an hour and change away from the market opening. Silver making some wider sweeps. Will it go up above where it's at? Gold looking pretty much the same as silver, just kind of sideways, but an upward tendency there. All right, crypto's flat for the last hour. Pre-market's looking good so far, baby. Look at this, energy minerals like oil and, coal and shit like that is all down. I do believe that is temporary. ETFs up 18%, 20%, 17%. Look at this, man. ETFs are such a solid investment. It's looking like the fixed income, though, aren't doing so well. Commodities will always do well. They're a little bit lower on the return side, but they'll always do well. World currencies are sucking it. Everything's down. Look, man, the whole world goes by our dollar leads the world by example, and all other currencies are affected by the dollar. Believe it.
Now we've got earnings season coming up.
Yeah, if you're one of these idiots who's like, down with America and this country sucks. Bro, no country is without its faults, obviously. And America certainly has some, obviously. But we are miles above every other country in many ways. These people are the same people that have never visited another foreign country, and their knowledge on world history is minimal.
And a quick update on crude. Crude at the moment down by 2%. 102 on Brent, WTI around 99. That's the price action. Let's get you some morning calls. First up, Morgan Stanley cutting its price target on RH, highlighting near-term supply chain disruptions.
That's Brent oil.
Hammered in the pre-market. Your second call from Raymond James upgrading Disney to outperform, believing shares are, quote, historically cheap. Stock is up by more than 1% this morning. And your third and final call from JP Morgan downgrading Nike to neutral, noting turnarounds, quote, take time. Nike right now down by 11% in early trading. Let's turn back to that data. An upside surprise on ADP. Mike McKee's got the details. Morning, Mike.
Good morning, John. Well, it's got to trade on something Wednesday, so we present ADP, 62,000, as you mentioned, after a revised 66,000 in the month of February. Does this mean much? We're not really sure because the ADP folks found 66,000 last month, while the non-farm payrolls number for private sector jobs was down 86,000. But it is something that people like to trade on and take a look at. So here's some of the numbers underneath. Manufacturing loses 11,000 jobs. Construction gains 30,000. Leisure and hospitality, just 7,000 jobs created, but transportation, trade, and utilities lose 58,000. An interesting mix. They also track pay. Job stayers get 4.5% pay raise during the month. Job changers get a 6.6% raise during the month. It is going to be very interesting to see what we get from the ISM employment numbers coming up at 10 o'clock this morning. And of course, in just a few minutes, we got February retail sales, so something to trade on if you're tired of trading on oil.
Mike McKee, thank you, sir. Thanks for the update. And that's what we like to see, that difference between wages, wage gains for your current employer and what an alternative employer might offer you. If you switch jobs, if you leave, you get paid more money. It just keeps the pressure on the employers to make sure they keep people happy and pay them.
So we like to say.
John,
that's what we like to see.
What would you like to say? Come on,
That's
carry
what we
on.
like to see.
Ask for a raise.
I like to see that gap. I like to see that gap. It speaks to a little bit of tightness in the labour market, some demand for employers.
Yeah.
Both.
Honestly, this to me highlights why people are worried about inflationary shock. It doesn't really speak to any kind of downturn.
Don't give up, Bramo.
I know.
What was
Thank
Steve
you.
England doing yesterday over at Standard Chartered?
He said he wasn't going to ask for a raise.
He's not
I heard
asking his
that
boss
was ridiculous.
for a raise.
I was like, I'm so happy I'm not in the studio. That would have just put me off all
Imagine
day.
how happy Bill Winters will be with that. You know, that's what they want.
People to feel like they're...
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Of course. Yelena Shiletseva with the conference board joins us now. She asked for a raise. It's good to see her. She deserves one. Yelena, good morning.
Thank you so much. But that's not
thanks for
what
being here.
people are doing according to the latest JOLTS report. They're not quitting, right? So that means they're sticking and, well, probably they're asking for a raise, but they're not voting their feet.
Begs the question, how tight is this labour market?
I think...
Tight.
Sorry to give you the...
You're an economist, I expect it. Please do.
Yeah, sure, but it depends on which indicator you look at. If you look at certain indicators that would tell you the labor market is super tight, there are labor shortages in certain industries. But on the other hand, you know, like you look at flows, you look at different things, you know, it's really... some people are struggling to find a job. Look at the consumer confidence labor differential. People are saying it's very difficult to find a job, right? And that's why they're not quitting.
So this ADP report comes in stronger than expected. Yesterday, we got the JOLTS data, and as you mentioned, you saw the quits rate fall, and that's a significant warning flag. Also, the hiring has been falling off a cliff. You have not seen active hiring in a mass scale, despite this ADP report. Is there any sense that that's shifting around, given kind of some of the tea leaves that we might be getting from ADP?
I don't think so. And I think that given the data on the eve of the Iran conflict, people are actually very confused and uncertain. And I think that hiring rate will remain low for the foreseeable future until we figure out what is going on and how that affects consumer spending going forward. I think we will see a little bit of a demand shock from what is going on with oil prices. It's already been a shock. It's not that, you know, ending the war tomorrow will just put things back where they were back in February. I
there's
think
a delay.
We're going to see a significant impact on growth.
Yeah, there's always a delay with these things. I do believe we're going to see a rise in oil as this war becomes more and more protracted. You know, Trump keeps on saying, he keeps on giving them extensions in their deadline. And that's just, you know, all this time that's passing. If we ended the war tomorrow, for the next week or two, we wouldn't notice any difference in the price of gas. You know, there's a few days of difference. There are some gas stations out there, you know, some companies that are trying to capitalize on things and deliberately raising their prices just to make their money, which, you know, is greedy, and they shouldn't be doing that. But they will, and nobody will do a damn thing about it. That's the way of the world. Greed. Well, America, at least. In the consumer nation, the premier consumer nation of the world. That's why everything's more expensive here. Everything is more expensive here. Bro, how much can you get for $5 at a gas station anywhere in America? Take your pick. Well, I mean, a 20-ounce soda now is over $2. You can't get a bag of chips. Some of those bags of Doritos in a convenience store in particular, they're going to cost you $7 or $8 for a regular standard size bag of chips. Now, obviously, you can get one cheaper, but you're going to pay. You might walk out of a convenience store in America with 2 items with $5. Now, take that same $5 and go to a 7-Eleven in Thailand, for example, which I plan on going to. And you can get more shit with that $5 than you can carry. I'm not exaggerating either. And it's not just garbage food. There's plenty of it there, don't get me wrong. But you can get bottled water there for 30 cents a bottle. Like, you know, 20 ounce or so bottle. Actually, they're bigger than that because it's water. 30 cents, bro. 30 cents. I'm not exaggerating at all. You can get a 20-ounce bottle of soda for less than $1. You can get those same $8 bags of chips that you'd pay here. You get those same bag of chips, about $1. You can get like a candy bar that you'd pay $2 for here or more. You're going to get that for about 50 cents. They've got little microwavable ham and cheese sandwiches. They are famous around the world. Thailand, the 7-Elevens in Thailand, it's an exclusive thing that they've got in Thailand. Ham and cheese toasty. And they'll cook it for you. They'll heat it up for you. You're going to pay about $1 for one of those. People live off of those things. That's how good they are. Everybody rants and raves about the ham and cheese toasty. Australians. So, bro, the shit you can get for $5 at the 7-Eleven in Thailand is unreal. Is unmatched by anywhere, especially in America. I'm telling you, everything is so much cheaper around the world. Your rent is cheaper. The cost of electricity is cheaper. The cost of gas and cigarettes are about the only thing that stays relatively similar around the world. Okay? But by and large, everything else is dirt cheap. Now, why is that? It doesn't cost any less to get it and make it happen and bring it to the people. It's because in America, you are the product. You are being robbed silently. Between that and the dollar losing its value, buddy, I'm telling you, America needs to get its shit together. Everything's more expensive in America, and that's by design. That's why everybody comes here to exploit. Because everything is you can sell everything for more expensive. It's maddening to me, man. Thailand's a third world country. No. You can certainly go to parts of Thailand that are dirt poor, but dude, they get I forget what the number is. It's over 20 million tourists every year. Thailand is one of the most popular, or Bangkok and Phuket. They're one of the most visited places as far as tourism, world tourism is concerned. Number one destination in the world, buddy. And the food. Oh, don't get me started on the food. You can get a big, huge meal with rice. It's something called pad krapao. If you don't know what it is, it's like a ground meat. It's usually pork or beef or ground chicken. But they mix it up in their spices and with a nice, delicious sauce, and they put it on top of the rice. And then they'll take a fried egg and slap that on top. You're going to get that for less than $2. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. America is toast. No prices ever go down. When's the last time you saw prices of anything come down and stay there? And I mean, like, you know, prices of a gallon of milk, the price for a loaf of bread, everyday things, a dozen eggs. When's the last time you saw it go down any amount, any consequential amount, and maintain that amount? You're never going to see, say, 50 cents a dozen for eggs ever again. in the United States. You will never see it again. Guess what? You can get a dozen eggs in Thailand for about a quarter. I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling you. Americans are getting ripped off day in and day out, and there's no good reason for it beyond greed.
Up at about 9:45 tomorrow morning. They'll have breakfast and start working towards their preparation.
Dude, I stayed in a four-star hotel, and it was $25 a night. That was 18 years ago. Prices are a little more expensive now. But, dude, you can still find, if you want to stay in a hostel and you're by yourself or something, you don't like have a family with you and you don't really care about the accommodations. If you're going to stay any long period of time in Thailand, your hotel room isn't going to get much action anyway. Well, I mean, it depends on what you're doing in Thailand, but yeah, I would, if you go to Thailand, I would discourage anyone from bringing a girl back to your hotel room. However, if you do, most of the time, the front desk of the hotel room, a lot of times they won't let you bring outsiders in. But when they do, they can take the girl's ID and they have to check in with the front desk before they leave. And guess what? They know what time it is, man. I'm telling you, the people at the front desk of the hotel, let's say you had a fun night with a girl and you passed out and she tries to steal something from you and haul ass. The front desk calls you. Before they give her ID back, they will call you and ask you if everything's all right because they know how these things work. I'm telling you, dude, Thailand has got it going on. I'm telling you, man. And I can't wait to get out of America myself. You know what? I love a lot of the things that President Trump has done. Of course, there's some things that I do not approve of, but that's just the way things work. But all of the awesome shit that he's done, in 3 years when he's no longer there, a lot of that's going to go right out the window. Because that's what we do in America. We flip-flop back and forth. Nothing ever sticks. Unless he codifies some of that stuff into law. But dude has done more good things to this country than bad. There's a hot button issue, huh? That's a matter of perspective. And of course, it's just my opinion. But yeah, getting rid of the DEI and all the woke BS that's out there. Yep. I sure as shit support that. All the deportations. I definitely support that. If you're not here legally, you need to get out and come back legally. Every single country has that basic immigration standard. You don't have a country if your borders are open. Literally. If you're open to what could be called an invasion, then you have no sovereignty. Yes, it's a shame that we can't all just get along and open the borders and everybody's nice and, giving everybody hugs and everybody's just, all peace, love, and happiness. Yeah, I'm all for peace, love, and happiness. Don't get me wrong. But you've got to be realistic. You've got to be realistic. You've got to put logic above your emotions. And it's shocking to me how many people can't do that. The fact of the matter is, having your nation's sovereignty at heart when it comes to the laws that we make and enforce, you're damn right you should be deported if you're here illegally. And look, man, when you move to another country, then you should assimilate. Now, saying that statement goes against everything I was brought up to believe. Okay? I have an anarchy tattoo on me from when I was 14. Okay? I despise governments in general because they don't, whatever my reason is, it doesn't matter. Fucking, the point is, I used to be all for those sorts of things until I did a little more, learning about the way of the world and the priorities of people and how things go down. You have to have enforcement of immigration standards. It's just what you have to do. And you want to call Islamophobia or whatever kind of phobia you want to add to a word to make it sound like, people are scared or something. Like, transphobia and Islamophobia. Shut the fuck up. Nobody's scared of these maniacs. Are you? Are you scared? There's tolerance and acceptance, which I firmly believe in, that people should be more open-minded. But at the same time, you can't just unlock the gate. It's like, do you use the lock at your house? Perhaps you live in a nice neighborhood and don't have to worry about that kind of thing. That's an exception to what I'm saying. But if you have locks on your doors, do you leave your door open at night when you go to sleep? Even if you feel safe and secure without locking. Don't you do it most of the time? If you lock your doors at night and you don't support the deportations that are going on, then I question your grip on reality. All right. That's enough of a rant. Let's see what they're saying over at
Just
Fox.
yesterday. We'll continue that here on Live Now from Fox. We're also monitoring this live feed here from NASA as well. However, they've been having intermittent commentary here, so it's been dipping in and out, so we haven't been bringing it to you, but we're going to continue listening in during the break. If the coverage has resumed, we will bring it to you on Live Now from Fox.
I don't
care. We are stepping away for that commercial break. Stay with us.
No commercial break for you, baby. Hoo, 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 hoo. I'm finding some noose. Gonna find me some noose. Hey, fun fact. Did you know that the word news, what it means? It's plural for new, as in new events around the world. These are new stories. Brand new. That's why it's called the news. It's all of the new things in the world. Huh. Bet you didn't know that. What is the UN news saying?
And so when we got together, it just felt natural. It just felt right.
Yeah, she doesn't look natural or right. She looks fat! A fat lump of protoplasm lumbering through the malls and the grocery stores. I'm getting ready to share this stream all across X. That's why I put the April Fool's text on the screen, because I'm about to claim that there's nuclear war. Woo!
This creates
drop a comment. Tell me what your best April Fool's prank was, or is, or are doing, or have done.
Significant part of the consumer mix is not feeling well and not feeling like they are flush with cash. This becomes yet another reason that people end up pulling back on a number of those essential items.
If you're just joining us, welcome to the programme. Just tuning in, we've got some economic data in the last 20 minutes or so. 2 for 2. Upside surprises on both. We had the ADP number come out at 8:15 Eastern Time. That came in at 62K. The estimate in our survey was 40K, and retail sales dropped just moments ago. That was also an upside surprise. Mike, I understand you've got some additional details. What do you see?
We've got the breakdown of what people were spending money on. Interesting note that
spend money on your mom.
Gasoline, the retail sales numbers were up by 0.6%. So
Who
the same
cares?
amount, gasoline prices, of course, much lower in February than they were.
Duh. Guess what, though? They're still lower than they were under Biden.
Electronics stores up 0.5%, but the big winner this time, health and personal care stores, 2.3%. Clothing stores up 2%, and motor vehicles up 1.2%. So people were spending in some of these less discretionary areas, and the general merchandise stores, department stores, basically unchanged. The non-store retailers, the online guys, up 0.7%. But the interesting thing is grocery stores were down by 1%. We spent money on clothes and cars, and we didn't eat, I guess.
Mike McKee, thank you. I guess. I mean, the data is what the data is. Doesn't make much sense sometimes, but That's the data.
The idea that people are spending so significantly on cars, on clothing, on discretionary goods indicated that they did have discretionary funds. And that ultimately is the question that people have. How much momentum is there to withstand this? Sucharita, based on that breakdown, how much are you seeing people being able to absorb the increase in gasoline prices? Or do you think that that will divert funding away from discretionary spending and potentially hit the retailers and the car dealerships?
Yeah, that's typically what we do see whenever you have a spike in pricing that affects such a broad swath of the economy. One other nuance, just with respect to the data, is much of those retail forward numbers are month-over-month numbers. And what is equally as important, and I would argue even more important, is looking at the year-over-year numbers. And what we are seeing with respect to year-over-year numbers is that there is still an increase overall. Much of it is tied to inflation levels. So we're not necessarily seeing people spending on more units of goods, but they're certainly able to spend more.
Yeah, I got your unit right here.
Across a variety of different categories. So that, I think, is the important piece to consider.
Sucharita, we're going to get earnings in a couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll get guidance about how some of these companies are navigating the inflationary shock, at least for some of their products and their shipping. Just when you do channel checks, how much do you get a sense that retailers are able to pass along the price increases to consumers more directly?
Well, certainly they've been passing them along pretty shamelessly in a lot of these essential goods. So
do you expect any different?
The shopper certainly seems to be absorbing that. The shopper clearly is not happy to absorb that, and that's where you see those consumer confidence numbers down, where you see the shopper certainly either trading down or often opting to items that may be private label goods. Certainly, I think in the automotive sector, when gas prices are high, what you're also going to start seeing is flights to things like hybrid cars or electric cars. So you see substitutions happening in a variety of different places. And
there's a term for that.
Is absolutely an outcome of this. And it doesn't take, kind of a year of these higher prices.
There's a word for that. Something, I can't think right now. It's something destruction. Sounds worse. The characterization of it sounds worse.
Forrester following a better than expected retail sales print in America. Central banks recently clarifying their reaction functions, offering greater clarity. Governor Bailey of the Bank of England doing that just now with Reuters. These headlines just dropped. Markets are ahead of themselves in pricing rate hikes. We have to act in a way that doesn't harm the economy or harm jobs.
And going on to say businesses have less ability to raise prices, so they don't really see the inflationary read-through because of consumers that are cramped. And even if they are spending more on dollar levels or on pound levels, they're not necessarily buying more goods just by virtue of how much prices have gone up. Highlighting just again, the reaction function is not to hike rates necessarily. The reaction function might be to support growth by cutting or at least holding steady.
At one point in the month of March, we had something like a 100 basis point move at the front end of the UK curve, which is wild. We'd gone from talking about the potential for rate cuts to talking about the potential for 2-3 interest rate hikes through the year ahead. That's a massive turnaround. Yields at the front end this morning down by 8 basis points on UK 2s. Sterling just a touch weaker off the back of those headlines.
Well, also talking about, to Lisa's point, that maybe it's not the inflationary impact that central banks are worried about right now. Bailey, to the Reuters, is saying the focus on the next meeting is going to be jobs and growth. They're worried.
Shit. I had a comment to make. April Fools! Let's get some cash!
If they come out up front and say we're worried more about growth than inflation, if they'd done that a month ago, as soon as you got the energy shock, what would we have seen happen to inflation expectations if they were the comments that were coming from these central banks? That's the belief system that they have to follow, that first and foremost you anchor inflation expectations and then you worry about growth soon after. And I wonder if we've got to the worry stage already.
Verbal intervention leads to tightening of financial conditions, which leads to worries about downside to growth, which is why Tom Becker of BlackRock came on and said he sees real value opening up in the European front end of the yield curve because of expected comments like this.
Let's give you an update on stories worldwide with your Bloomberg brief. Yahira has more. Hey, Yahira.
Hi, John. Recapping that data we just received. Retail sales for February coming in above expectations, rising 0.6% month over month. And in the labor market, private payrolls surprising to the upside in March. ADP reporting employers added 62,000 jobs versus estimates of 40,000. Anthropic accidentally leaking source code for its
I saw
AI
this.
tool. The company blaming a human
Accidentally.
error for the exposure of over 500,000 lines of internal data.
Damn.
Anthropic claims no customer info was compromised. Some are raising concerns about potential security vulnerabilities. And NASA
You think?
astronauts are set to lift off today on a 10-day journey around the moon. The
And
voyage
I will cover
marks
this
the biggest
live.
milestone yet in NASA's Artemis campaign to land humans on the moon as soon as 2028. The crew is set to travel farther in space than anyone in
Good.
history. That's your Bloomberg Brief. John?
Amazing. Very cool. Yahara, thank you. Appreciate your work this morning. Up next on the program, Nouria Rabini of Hudson Bay Capital with investors awaiting...
You know, what I find funny is, you know how every now and then you'll see a story on, like, typically social media is the only place you'll find this kind of stupidity. But, you know, how many times have you seen a post about some asteroid out there that's worth a crazy amount of money because it's got a crazy amount of some mineral, you know, gold or whatever. And then they'll caption it with, it's enough money, the value is so high, it'll make everybody a millionaire. No, it won't. No, it won't. You know what it would do? It would crash the market of whatever mineral that is. Supply and demand dictate those terms. But I assume all of you fine people watching are aware of that. But if you're not, and you share that stupid shit, you should be aware. You're an idiot. I just love seeing morons and the stuff that they post. It's so entertaining. How can you put a price on that? I'm going to run over here to some news because, don't you know, there is some stuff happening. Oh, apparently not yet. Well, wait a minute. What's this? Yeah, they're in commercial. That figures. See what they're saying over there on Fox. Okay. Let's give Fox a listen.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press. How much wiggle room do you have to either halt the countdown or deal with a solar flare that is a big one and comes out at you?
Man, shut up. Nobody cares about that right now, which I find odd. They're even doing this launch. It's odd to me. The timing of it all. Like, why is now? Why now? You know what I mean? It's cool. It's definitely awesome. And I am of the persuasion that we don't know all of the wild stuff that we do outside of Earth. I'm not too big into the conspiracy aspect of these things, but I am quite convinced that we do leave this planet a lot more than we're being told. I do believe. There's also a lot of crazy stuff that's been suggested. You know, I forget who it was. I think it was Mr. Bigelow himself. Or it might have been... Yeah, I'm not sure. But it was somebody big in one of these big, like, aeronautical space places, you know, like Lockheed Martin and places like that. He said the technology that they have, we have as Americans, I should say, that the technology is centuries beyond what's available to the average citizen. He said, think of everything, all of the technology in Star Trek, for example. And he said, yeah, everything you could think of, we have, and then some. That's damn near a direct quote. That should make everybody think. He wasn't some psycho or some crazy. He worked at Lockheed Martin. He contributed to that fact. Now, is there controlled manipulation and disinformation out there? Sure. Is that one of them? Maybe. I think it's quite interesting nonetheless.
See the markets whipsaw yesterday off of this call the president had with one of his European counterparts saying we are open to ending the ceasefire, but reiterated what Iran would need to see to have a ceasefire. And what Iran wants to see will be absolutely
ridiculous
non-starters by the United States. It's also important to note that Iran's president really has no influence, very limited influence on this regime. On top of that,
that's why we got to destroy it.
The Iranian role is domestic economic policy. He is not going to be the one that decides the war should end.
So there's one component of this that keeps changing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and it's how dependent ending hostilities is on the situation with the Strait of Hormuz. So let's just go through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday together. So on Monday, the president said, if the Hormuz Strait is not immediately open for business, we will conclude our lovely stand Iran by blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, and Karg Island, and possibly...
Israel's been doing that. Israel has been hammering Iran's infrastructure. That's why we haven't done anything. We're letting Israel do it. They won't tell you that in the news.
Spoke to the reporting from the Wall Street Journal that maybe they'd end these hostilities in Iran without reopening the strait. And then it feels like this morning, Wednesday, we're closer to Monday than we are to Tuesday.
What do you do with this?
Tuesday,
mate. Just focus on what's going on in the region. And frankly, every analyst and investor who's come on the show today has said, look at what is feasible. And it is infeasible for the U.S. to pull out, for this war to be over without the Strait of Hormuz being a passage of free flow for trade. And that's, I think, what a lot of people just keep focusing on.
So the stock market's all over the place. Spiked higher. It's pulled back from there. We're now higher by about 0.5% on the S&P 500 off session highs. Bond yields are sitting this out. Had decent data, ADP, retail sales. Yields now unchanged on the 10-year, 431. And crude was lower going into that announcement. It stays lower. Brent crude down by about 2% at 102. Let's make sense of this. Nouriel Roubini of Hudson Bay Capital writes the following. If the president walks away from the war with Iran now, the threat to shipping in the Strait of Hormuz will remain. Despite the obvious risk, he has every reason to try to finish the job. Nouriel, good morning.
Good morning.
And good luck as well, to explain the last few days. What is the status of things in your mind, and where do you think this is heading?
Well, there are two options. One is to de-escalate and walk away from this war.
That won't work.
And get to a ceasefire. But they're going to get a ceasefire without a deal with Iran, and Iran's going to control the Strait of Hormuz. It's going to threaten the Gulf and the supply of oil. You have a regime that is actually much more radical today than it was before, because Muqtada Khamenei's son is more radical than his father. They're going to rebuild.
And also, let's not forget, because they're stupid and they believe bullshit, prophecy fuels these animals. And everybody should remember now that Israel, every single conflict they've ever engaged in, has always been in defense. Always. Prove me wrong. Do you understand? Do you understand what Iran does with their theocratic nonsense? Do you understand that Iran's, the Islamic Republic, is not a republic in any way, shape, or form? And what drives them, the main driving force of these total pieces of human garbage? Prophecy, magic, bullshit. You see, there are two main denominations of Islam, Sunni and Shia. Yeah, there's others, but those are the two main ones. And within Shia Islam, there is the 12er Shias. Now, they believed after Muhammad, there were 12 imams, successors, if you will. And the 12th imam, he just vanished without a trace. They believe he went to another dimension, in another time, okay? And that he would only come back when the world is in chaos and only after Israel is destroyed. Does that sound like something a man of God would say? No, it sounds like something a human being would say. A human being that's got grudges. Okay? Now, they believe it's their duty to invoke Armageddon by destroying Israel. Now, they're not very close to Israel. They're closer than we are, obviously, but they're not right next door to them. So what do? They have to create proxy armies. This is how they fund terrorism. Okay? This is exactly what they do. They fund Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen. All of them are Shia 12er Muslims. And they believe that it is their holy duty to destroy Israel. You know, belief is a powerful thing. It also can be quite ridiculous. Believing in magic and friggin' fairy tales. Man, grow up. And what do? How do they attack Israel? Well, they hide weapons in schools, libraries, neighborhoods, you know, residential areas. They hide their weapons there and they fire on Israel from those locations so that when Israel retaliates, they can say, oh, look, they're attacking our schools. They're killing civilians. And then they get online and post all these retarded stories, propaganda, and again, you're the retard if you believe it. These people have already lied about the capability of their missiles, didn't they? And Trump called it at his State of the Union address. He said that they could strike Europe. And what happened? Oh, everything he said in that speech was a lie. Yeah? Uh-huh. Did you see what they attempted to do? Did you see how far that missile came? Uh-huh. Once again, Trump was vindicated, but they don't talk about that. They just leave their stories intact and then they don't talk about it. So there's a record of a reputable news source saying Trump was full of shit. And what do the monkeys and sheep do? They gobble it up, every bit, and then they ignore everything else that comes out. And if you say Trump was right, or if you say that you like what Trump is doing, then all of a sudden that makes this whole list of other stuff apply to you. This is why I've got a family member who won't talk to me, because she was one of these crying liberals that believed that when Trump would take office, that all the gay people were going to be rounded up and thrown in camps, and actually said the words to me that she really did believe that people were going to kick in the doors of married gay couples that have adopted kids and take their kids and teach them how to give head to old white men. Okay, my aunt is white, and she said this nonsense. She's one of these people that believed, I don't know how you could still believe it, but she's one of these people that believed that we were going to have a Handmaid's Tale type reality. Honey, that's what Iran does! And it doesn't matter to these people. Real social justice and real, shit around the world, they don't care about being on the wrong side of that. Their main mission lately is 2 words. Trump bad. That's it. That's all they've got. And then the sheep just follow along mindlessly. It makes me sick. Tell us how you really feel, huh? I am thankful for you guys for being here. I appreciate you listening to me run my mouth. I am an asshole, I do believe. So I'm sorry if I offended your delicate sensibilities, but, people need to open their damn eyes. I'm getting so tired of these idiots who just insist on just believing complete nonsense, like the Islamic Republic of Iran does with their nonsense that they believe. It makes me sad. It makes me sad. It's a testament to the stupidity of the average person. The average person is stupid. Just think. Okay? Realize the average person is stupid. And then realize that half of those people are stupider than that. It sounds like a joke, but that is an actual statistic. Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. What's the UN saying?
Support. The flash appeal we launched today will sustain and expand life-saving assistance over the next 3 months, including food, clean water, healthcare, education, protection and other vital services. Its success depends on swift, flexible funding and on ensuring that humanitarian workers can safely reach those most in need. Allow me to close on this note. Across the country, Muslim families are observing the holy months of Ramadan and Christian families are marking Lent. These are seasons rooted in compassion and generosity. They reflect the very spirit of the people of Lebanon. For years, Lebanon has opened the doors to those fleeing conflict. The people of Lebanon have shown the world the true meaning of hospitality, solidarity, and resilience. Now the world must show the people of Lebanon our strongest support in this hour of great danger and profound need. These are immediate needs, but there will be a lot that Lebanon needs in solidarity from the international community, helping to establish an immediate ceasefire that both sides must accept, creating the conditions for negotiations that will allow Lebanon to become, in the shortest possible period, a country that sees its territorial integrity fully respected and where the state has the monopoly of the use of force. And the United Nations stands ready to support the government of Lebanon in the courageous program that you have in front of you. Thank you very much.
What do you think about that? Yeesh, that was loud. What are we watching? By the way, this is actually the UN channel. You know, man, I'm all for peace. I'm all for it. I wish we could have it. But as long as you've got idiots and their retarded ideological, theocratical bullshit in the world, it's going to be awfully hard to have any of that peace. It sure would be nice. And like I said, I am all for it, man. But humans aren't ready. We are not ready. Put Bloomberg up.
Taste good. That's an important aspect of food, right? It's supposed to be enjoyable.
I am almost positive that they would disagree with you on that point. Matt, let's get back to our top story this morning. Oil dropping ahead of President Trump's address to the nation.
At 9 p.m., he's going to address the nation. Be here for that, too.
Hey, back to the Stone Ages. This as the president continues this game of 3D, three-dimensional chess, we should say. He's also telling the rest of the world that if they want precious oil from the Persian Gulf, they should go to the Strait themselves and just take it. The Prime Minister of England, Keir Starmer, saying this early this morning.
Trump's a fucking gangster, dude.
They worry that the UK will be dragged into this. We won't.
He said it's not his war, but he also said he does plan to work with his European allies and NATO and the G7 to begin movement in the Strait and begin securing that region. Just 24 hours later, changing his tune there falling into line with the president and his wishes. More on that coming up here in just moments. We'll get analysis. But the president is stating he is seriously, meanwhile, this morning, considering pulling the United States out of NATO. This after France and Italy and Spain, they all refused the United States to use airfields. Some of them did anyway, and some airspace limited as well. Newsmax foreign correspondent Trent Murray, he's tracking the story for us live in Paris this morning. Trent?
Yeah, well, good morning to you, Shannon. Yeah, look, those crisis talks taking place over here amid those surging energy prices and those new concerns over the NATO alliance. Of course, we know the leaders of the EU's 27 member countries have been holding discussions around just how to help Europe weather this storm amid those surging gas and oil prices. We know Europe very reliant on imported gas, much more so than the United States, and prices here now up by 70% when compared to February before Operation Epic Fury began. Now, we know the Islamic Republic is continuing to strike that critical oil and gas infrastructure, placing real strain on the exports of not just oil and gas, but also fertilizer. We've just heard from Europe's energy commissioner. He has given an update on where things stand. The message is he believes things are going to get worse before they get better. Let's listen.
Yeah, probably.
It's very important to underline that it will not be short, because even if there was a peace tomorrow, there would still be consequences.
Yep.
Because energy infrastructure in the region has been ruined by the war and continuously is being ruined by the war. While there are no immediate oil and gas supply shortages in the European Union, we see tightening in certain product markets, notably diesel and jet fuel.
It's coming.
Now, notable, he mentioned jet fuel there, because many energy analysts over here are predicting that could be one of the areas first to see major impacts. We're being told that London Heathrow Airport is amongst the most vulnerable across Europe. It is the continent's busiest airport, and some experts are saying it only has weeks of supplies left before they could start to see disruption. We're already seeing some countries across the Asia Pacific start to slash their schedules. Vietnam and the Philippines, just several examples of cutting back flights in order to try and conserve those crucial supplies. We also know the EU right now is focused on trying to slash taxes.
Right. And it is currently 6 minutes after 9. The market will be open in approximately 25 minutes-ish. I am going to go have me a smoke before the market opens, because once it does, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay right here with you, baby, because I love you. I love you people, and I appreciate you guys being here. Be sure to subscribe and drop a like if you would. It would really help. But I will be back here probably at 6 p.m. and for the Artemis launch. And then probably at 9 p.m., I think that's when they said Trump was going to address the nation or something. So I expect a big announcement of some sort, paired with a bunch of rambling like he does when he goes off script. The man is not a good public speaker, is he? Nonetheless, I'm still going to be paying attention to that. So I am going to leave you with... No, not Fox, because all they're talking about
and the president
Artemis.
saying basically they've asked for a ceasefire this morning. Your thoughts, and who is the...
Iran, and we'll keep putting bombs over the next few weeks wherever they need them. The besieged secret policemen getting nailed. Last night, the Israelis just devastated the Ministry of Industry, where all of the defense planning goes. So things are really on track, and now the president is shifting his attention to the Europeans, who want to blame all of this on him, when really what they need is a mirror, because they are the reason they're paying $30 a gallon for diesel.
Yes, exactly. Let's get to that. The Strait of Hormuz, the president did mention it in his Truth Social post this morning, maybe lending a look at perhaps what he addresses tonight when he addresses really the world at 9 p.m. But he mentions the Strait of Hormuz. The president yesterday in the Oval said it's going to be 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to wrap this thing up. And then he said, securing the strait is not our job. It's not in our military plan at all. I think it took a lot of people by surprise. Hours after the president told Europe, the strait's your problem, go fix it, get your oil on your own, the Prime Minister, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, had this to say this morning. Listen.
And the Chancellor have met their counterparts in the G7. The Defence Secretary has been in the Middle East speaking to our partners. And the UK has now brought together 35 nations around our statement of intent to push as one for maritime security across the Gulf. And today I can announce that later this week, the Foreign Secretary will host a meeting that brings those nations together for the first time, where we will assess all viable diplomatic and political measures that we can take to restore freedom of navigation, guarantee the safety of trapped ships and seafarers, and resume the movement of vital commodities. Following that meeting, we will also convene our military planners to look at how we can marshal our capabilities and make the strait accessible and safe after the fighting.
So the Prime Minister there said, after the fighting ends, we'll be sending in our military capability. But I'm just intrigued by this. The President pushes out this message yesterday afternoon saying, Europe, you're on your own. Go get your own oil. And this morning, 12 hours later, they're capitulating, coming off the sidelines and saying, we're headed in.
Yes, somewhat. The rhetoric across all of the European nations hasn't turned completely yet. In fact, again, they want to make this the United States as the bag holder, but going back through the Ukraine war, which the president just said, follow my leadership and we'll get this war behind us. But instead, we still see Russian refineries that actually refine gas that they need getting blown up on the Baltic. We see Lloyd's of London shutting down the strait. So Keir Starmer can cry crocodile tears, but it's his very own City of London financialists that says we're not going to export any food to Europe because we didn't get our fertilizer.
Well, and it just seemed, you know, it was intriguing to me that when the president said, go get your own oil, and we hadn't heard much from Europe up until that point about getting involved at all. Now they're pulling together 35 nations and planning to go in after the fighting is done, by the way, after our guys get it done.
I have been in meetings in Brussels where the big statement is we're going to pull together the membership and we'll have a consensus. No, that won't actually happen. There's not going to be a consensus. And the other problem is that they're living on the phrase, you wouldn't dare, meaning vectored at America, because they're so jilted that in the past it's always been about, well, Europe doesn't really want to give any money or play or get their minesweepers dirty, so we won't do anything. And so the United States always stands up and says, oh, yeah, we'll do it. Now you've actively got the defense or the opposition leader in Germany saying, we want all Americans out of here. If we get power in AfD, America's leaving Germany. And the president is saying, I'm with you. Deal. No
absolutely.
problem.
Calling his bluff, calling everybody's bluff. The president, meanwhile, called NATO this paper tiger overnight, said pulling out of NATO is beyond reconsideration. In other words, he's not reconsidering staying in. He's planning to get out. Marco Rubio doubled down on it last night in an interview, saying that, hey, we pay 2/3 of the bill for NATO, defend, secure all these nations. The only thing we get out of it, out of paying that tab in almost full freight, is access to our bases. And now they're cutting that off. What's in it for the U.S.?
They've been warning them. The vice president warned them at Munich Security Conference. Then the next one, Secretary Rubio warned them. And it's not just about them not paying their freight on defense. They are destroying their own cultures. These are Western values. They have destroyed and continue to destroy their prosperity by Germany. Just again, slaughtered down one of their nuke plants in the name of climate change. And they don't understand that windmills will not heat you and lack of fertilizer will not feed you. And they're not paying attention. They just want to rally around you wouldn't dare. So their World Economic Forum, City of London, globalist positions have been exposed by our president, and they've walked right into a loyalty trap that they're having a real hard time getting out of right now.
Retired Brigadier General, the U.S. Air Force, Blaine Holt. General, great to see you.
Great to see you.
President Donald Trump said he plans to be in attendance when the Supreme Court hears arguments today on birthright citizenship. The presence of a sitting president at the high court during oral arguments never been seen before. It is indeed a first. We have our cameras trained on the Supreme Court this morning. We'll take you there live as soon as movement there begins. Today, meanwhile, the Artemis rocket lifting off. You're looking live right now at the Kennedy Space Center, carrying these astronauts in this lunar loop around the moon and back, bringing us tons of information, we expect. More news now here on N2, right after this.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During any disaster, electrical power may get cut. The emergency radio gives you the vital information you need. Newsmax wants you to have the Dynamo Emergency Band Radio. It doesn't need batteries and works in any emergencies. It retails for $30. You can get it with the free offer. Call or go online and get the emergency radio today. Your life may depend on it.
What will you do when the power goes out? Power outages can be unpredictable and inconvenient, but with a Generac home standby generator, your life goes on uninterrupted because you'll have power when you need it the most. Special financing and low monthly payment options are available. And if you call now, you will also receive a free 5-year warranty valued at over $500. Call or go online now to request your free quote. Power your life with Generac.
Newsmax, you like Newsmax. I like it too. Newsmax, you like Newsmax. I like it too.
It's true. Millions of Americans agree with President Trump, and they're switching to Newsmax. They're watching great shows with Greta, Carl Higbie, Rob Schmidt, Finnerty, and more. If you're tired of big media, start watching Newsmax. It's free to start. Go to newsmaxplus.com for immediate access. Get all of President Trump's most important events live. Imagine watching Mike Huckabee's Israel Report, our Melania documentary, Clint Eastwood, Charlie Kirk specials, even the movie Jesus of Nazareth by Franco Zeffirelli. Once you start Newsmax Plus, you won't stop. So try it for free. Go to newsmaxplus.com, then download the app. It's easy. So make the switch to Newsmax Plus today.
You're looking live right now outside of the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. Protesters outside as well as we await this historic arguments on birthright citizenship this morning. President Trump planning to attend in person. It's supposed to get underway about 10 o'clock. We're keeping our cameras trained on it for any movement. Perhaps we see the president. He may stop and talk. We don't know. You never know. But he will be sitting in the nation's highest court as they have oral arguments on one of Trump's priorities. It was the first thing he signed when he came into office, among them anyway. He signed that executive order on the second day of his term declaring children born to parents who are illegal aliens are not and should not be American citizens. We'll continue following this and bring you updates as things progress here this morning, but we're keeping close tabs on what's happening in and around the Supreme Court for you. They're on the streets and inside those chambers as well. Meanwhile, President Trump cracking down on election integrity, signing an executive order yesterday to create federal voting lists of American citizens who are eligible to vote. It also gives the United States Postal Service the ability to verify and make sure that ballots are in fact returned by those eligible to vote only. This all comes as Congress continues this 2-week recess without decisions on the Save America Act nor funding for the Department of Homeland Security. TMZ, meanwhile, getting busy sharing photos of some lawmakers away from Washington right now, or maybe on vacation in some cases during the partial shutdown here. You can see some on flights. Senator Lindsey Graham, he was seen at Disney World as well. He claims he was visiting Disney after a meeting that he attended in South Florida with Steve Witkoff. President Trump stepped in to give TSA workers back pay, of course. He did that last week, and airports are already seeing those lines shorten a good bit and a bit of an end to the chaos we saw in recent weeks. Policy analyst for the Committee for a Constructive Tomorrow and also former vice chair for the New Jersey Federation of Republican Women, Melanie Collette, joining us this morning. Also with us, the host of the Tony Katz Show, Tony Katz himself. Good to see you both.
Good to see you.
Wow, what a busy morning already. A lot to talk about. The president, he's really taking steps to secure our elections. He did it yesterday. Melanie, what do you make of his executive order yesterday?
Listen, I think it was a good move. You know, the liberals are going to say that, oh, he's only doing it to fix the elections, when really he's doing it to secure the elections, and who would not want this? And I think the timing is good. Strategically, I'm sure he knows that, you know, they're going to sue, of course. But I think this is the step that you take to secure the elections. There's very little public knowledge about election strategy, and people think that because it's not pervasive like everywhere, that it isn't a problem. But you only need a few counties to throw a presidential election. I'm just saying.
Yeah, good point. Tony, though, this is sure to face legal challenges almost immediately. Yes?
Oh, 1,000%. Melanie is correct about that. And I think we all agree that President Trump and this administration are serious about election integrity. But I would argue that this move, which is going to get challenged, is about showing how unserious the political left is about election integrity. Just like we see with the SAVE Act, what President Trump calls the Save America Act. Every way they turn, they are opposed to voter ID, opposed to making sure that the voter rolls are accurate. There's a constant opposition, and exposing that is extremely important. Breaking down this nonsense that the left is presenting in this idea that somehow we shouldn't secure the idea that only American citizens vote. Of course, this is going to get challenges, but what it exposes, now let's see if Republicans know how to utilize that as they move into the midterms and as they keep going on this issue, because they should not quit until we have election integrity all over the place.
So we'll be watching it closely, see what happens legally on that measure. Meanwhile, we think we have some live pictures outside the Supreme Court. All eyes on the High Court today. It's ruling on birthright citizenship. Some are calling this the anchor baby ban. It's the first time that a sitting President Trump is en route to the Supreme Court. He's going to be there as this is read. Tony, with your legal hat on, this is a first. I mean, a sitting president sitting in the chambers as the justices come back with their finding on this. How does it influence the ruling? They've already made their decision when they come into the room, but what message does the president's presence send?
First, me with the legal hat, I'm an observer like everybody else, not a lawyer. I don't think watching 3 episodes of the People's Court would qualify me as a legal expert. I will say that I am not as moved by other people, by the president being there, as if somehow it's going to have some influence. This is to show the rest of the country that this subject matters and matters greatly. The Supreme Court knows that they get a lot of people checking in, a lot of people with a lot of different opinions and objections and disagreements with their positions. They're very used to this. Dear Lord, there were things leaked from the Supreme Court, and we never got to the bottom of it. Supreme Court officials threatened, like Brett Kavanaugh, and no one seemed to care. So the idea that President Trump would show up and pay attention and have an interest in what the court says, 2 things. First, it's not a big deal compared to threats that Supreme Court justices were receiving, not at all. And it signals that for a guy who's, we're told, is a dictator, he's really curious what a court tells him he can and cannot do.
Yes, he wants details and he wants to hear it read, and he wants to be present to see who is ruling which way. Melanie, let's talk about the DHS funding quickly. A lot for the American public to understand, but at the end of the day, Congress has gone home on this 2-week break now, and we're still in the middle of a partial shutdown. Now we're starting to hear from even folks across the aisle back home that things are not so secure, and that funding really does need to come through. Your thoughts on Trump, the president's handling as a Republican advocate, his handling of.
I would love to know your thoughts. Why don't you comment below and tell me what you think about this war?
No one seems to be naming names about who is voting against these things. That's the first thing that bothers me. I also think that Republicans need to get back to Congress and make an example out of the left who are not showing up for the American people. Can you imagine any job where you leave with the job not done. Can you imagine any scenario where people rely on you for their paycheck and you just go on vacation? It's disgusting. It's what people hate about Congress. And I think the biggest worry that Congress is going to have this upcoming election is probably going to be voter turnout, because this is a display of dysfunction in Congress. It's and everybody's seen it. Everybody who travels, we see it everywhere. And I think it's going to be a real problem for both sides of the aisle.
Tony, very quickly, I can't play her, I don't have time to play her soundbite, but Representative Ilhan Omar admitted that it's dangerous now to keep DHS operations shut down. We're even hearing it from across the aisle now. Is there any chance
strange.
to get things back in 2 weeks when everybody comes back, actually reach some kind of...
Hey, do me a favor and hit that like button if you're watching. I'd really appreciate it. It really helps this channel out more than you know. Yeah, you know, I don't make any money off of, well, I do make a little bit of money off of this, but it's negligible. For a live stream where I'm on for 3 hours, I might make a quarter. For real, it's not very much. So if you'd hit that like button, it'd help get this channel circulated more, and it would help me have a wider audience. So right now, I do believe there's a total between Rumble and YouTube. I only have 6 people watching. So this is a small channel. I am so grateful for you for being here. So if you'd hit the like button, that would really make my day. I'd really appreciate it.
To your screen now, Artemis 2 on that launch pad. This, by the way, is the same launch pad that launched the last mission to the moon.
I'm going to cover the launch tonight. I think it's at 6 p.m. I'm going to go live to cover that. Also going to probably be on for Trump's addressing the nation. I think he's supposed to go live around 9 p.m. I think. So I plan on being here for that as well. We shall see. Let's see what the UN news channel that I just recently found is saying. Are they saying anything worthwhile? Doesn't look like it. But let's see.
And with my daughters, I try to show them how important this is, that we shouldn't.
Not that I don't support whatever it is they're talking about. That's just not in the best interest of the point of this stream right now. Baby. See what Bloomberg says
right now. So we have seen a lot of volatility.
We are less than 4 minutes away from the opening bell. If you'd like me to check out a particular ticker symbol, drop it in the chat. I'll be glad to pull up whatever you want me to pull up. You don't even have to send a super chat to make it happen.
Open, although there's some question marks to that this morning about if that's necessary for retreat. President Trump earlier in the week saying that we could leave without reopening the strait. There was that Wall Street Journal report, but then today saying that in order for there to be a ceasefire, which he says Iran wants, that the Strait of Hormuz would need to be open regardless. Oil still falling this morning as futures point higher. We're going to have your market open for you just on the other side of this commercial break.
These damn commercials. I'm such a nice guy. I try and keep the commercials out of your mouth because I'm just a nice guy, baby. That was Bloomberg. Let's see. I think Fox is still talking about this fucking moon mission. What's this? No? Hey, they got Trump talking. Let's see.
Yesterday. And he said this, he said, I had one goal. They will have no nuclear weapon, and that goal has been attained. They will not have nuclear weapons. We're also getting this in here saying President Trump says the Iranian president just asked the U.S. for a ceasefire. The president adding he will consider it only after the Strait of Hormuz is open, free, and clear. So we're getting in social media reaction here from several people, including reporters. We're going to be rotating through these on your screen here as this news is just coming in. I wanted to finish this quote here from President Trump just yesterday as he says, we're finishing the job, and I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job. Now it's possible that we'll make a deal before that. My producer is sharing this here with me. If you give me one moment to pull this up. All right, so this statement from President Trump saying Iran's new regime president, much less radicalized and far more intelligent than his predecessors, has just asked the United States of America for a ceasefire. We will consider when Hormuz Strait is open, free and clear. Until then, we are blasting Iran into oblivion, or as they say, back to the Stone Ages. So this is that post there now on your screen from Truth Social from President Trump. Thank you to my producer for getting that up for us here. President Trump also said just yesterday, we've set them back. It'll take 15 to 20 years for them to rebuild what we've done to them. They have no Navy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I believe this over the nonsense coming out of Iran. I mean, why anybody would trust these animals is beyond me.
That's why we have regime change. We have nice new leaders. And the president mounted
Not
the
so
U.S.
sure
war
about
against
that.
Iran more than 4 weeks ago in conjunction with Israel. Americans have since faced a significant surge in fuel prices, with AAA national average for regular gas spiking to over $4 as of April 1st. The White House also sharing this post here as we continue to bring you this breaking news. As President Trump says, the Iranian leader has asked for a ceasefire. Any additional information we get on this we'll bring to you. And once again, President Trump sent to address the nation tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern
And I will
time.
cover
Of
that.
course, we're going to bring that to you here on Live Now from Fox.
As will I.
I also wanted to take you out to this live look at the Supreme Court, because a little bit later today, President Trump is going to be heading there. And we have this live look coming in from the White House, where we can anticipate that is where we will see President Trump leaving. Now, if you are just joining us, I wanted to share a bit more about this here with you, as President Trump will personally go to the Supreme Court today to attend arguments for a case regarding.
The bell has rang.
We're seeing big gains in futures, 0.5% on the S&P, 0.75% on the Nasdaq futures after massive gains in yesterday's trade, the biggest we've seen since May of last year, which was right after Liberation Day month. So I guess for the similar reasons, right? After Liberation Day and President Trump threatened the world with massive tariffs, and the economy would have been greatly damaged, then he brought them down. And so we were like, okay, the economy can fly free now, soar like a pigeon in the sky. By the way, Paloma Acquisition Corp ringing the bell at the Nasdaq, and Paloma means pigeon.
But apparently dove as well.
A dove.
All right, look, ST Microelectronics taking a jump. Broadcom looking pretty good. Astronics, one of my favorite names. You just can't beat a name like Astronics. Astronics is probably one of the greatest names in the stock market for a company. I just love Astronics. Nvidia taking a jump and then a little dive. And I think it's interesting to note, Bastille Holdings Company, this is a South Korean company. You cannot buy this in the American stock market. But they are one of the suppliers of SpaceX. All these companies I've got over here on the right, they're all SpaceX supply companies. And if you've been here before, you know that I've been talking about the IPO, the SpaceX IPO that's coming probably June or July. But this is probably a good way you can get in on that action before it's actually available, before SpaceX itself is actually available. The suppliers of SpaceX, they're going to do well because of them. You've got, Broadcom, ST Microelectronics, Astronics, that company with the greatest name in the world, Astronics. And then, of course, Nvidia and Bastille. I have two Bastille listings here, and I'm not sure which one it is. I don't invest myself. I don't invest in the South Korean market. And I couldn't begin to tell you how to go about doing that. But they're all both taking a run. I assume that this launch, because SpaceX, if it wasn't for SpaceX, NASA wouldn't be doing any of the things that they're doing lately. So I assume, I expect some of these companies to take a little bit of a jump ahead of that Artemis mission tonight. Brent crude oil hovering right at about $100. We can probably expect that to run up to somewhere between $130 and $180 a barrel. Unless there's a ceasefire and agreement that comes through, that's not going to change. That's going to continue to go up. As soon as if we get a ceasefire, this is probably going to fall down to about $70 or $80 a barrel. Because these are futures. The speculative market reacts, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Bitcoin trading sideways, not really doing much to write home about. The dollar below the 100 mark. That's good for many aspects of the stock market itself. Again, this is directly going to be tied to oil, the petrodollar, The value will go up if the prices go up just because all this oil is being paid for in the petrodollar. Thanks to Trump for getting rid of, throwing a monkey wrench at least into the plans of Russia and China to unpeg the petrodollar as a world reserve currency, or the currency that is used to buy oil with around the world. They were looking to make it the Russian ruble, and with the invasion of Venezuela and the capture of Maduro and now all of this, this is why people are saying that Trump's playing 4D chess. These are the things that you won't hear about in mainstream media because they don't want to do anything to make Trump look good. There's plenty of reasons to look at Trump in a bad way. Plenty of reasons. I'm not going to deny that. He's not a very favored person, right? But let's just be honest here. Even if you don't like Trump, especially if you don't like Trump, you got to learn to shed those biases and just accept the truth of certain things. And the truth regarding Venezuela and Iran and possibly Greenland, that is all of those things are centered around preventing China and Russia from overpowering the United States in some way, whether it be strategically or economically. America ain't having that. It's also those locations, Greenland and Venezuela, was an effort to keep them both out of our hemisphere. Trust me, man, you didn't want them to do that. You didn't want them to get closer to us and turn the economy upside down because, like it or not, the world reacts to our economy. We are the premier economy in the world. We are the leading economy in the world. On the planet, everywhere, nobody outdoes America in that respect. If you were to unpeg the dollar from oil, just for one, do you realize what that would do to our economy? Do you realize that other economies around the world are directly affected by our economy? If our economy dips 20%, okay, that would be disastrous for some other economies. You'd have currency collapses. You'd have complete failures of other people's economies. People don't think about these things when they run around talking shit. They don't want to accept that maybe Trump did something good for once, huh? They just can't. They just can't let those thoughts come in. And I want to do my part to tell all of you guys, make sure you vote during the midterms. I know a lot of people don't, and just because it's midterms. But we've got to get out to the polls. We've got to go and we've got to vote red. Because look, elections are won by the margins. That's why Trump won. He went to all the little small groups, some of which were Democrat targets, like the marijuana legalization crowd, the crypto crowd. All of these smaller groups, Trump went after one by one and got them. And that's precisely why he won the election. I'm telling you, elections are won in the margins. Now, do you know how many people right now are expecting a blue wave? These are one-issue voters. And unfortunately, most people are. That's why going after those margins are so important, right? Well, do you know how many people are going to go out and vote just because they want Trump to fail? Just because they don't like Trump? Straight up. So we've got to do our part and go out and let your voice be heard so that it can be a fair fight. Hey, man, if we lose midterms, that's just the result. We got to live with it. So do your part while you can. It's all you've got. It's very important because these people that want Trump out, they're going to come out in record numbers, I promise you. You see how many more people now show up for this No Kings rally bullshit? What'd they say? It was close to 10 million people. There's people around the world that are organizing into these same sorts of protests, with no kings protests. It's a fairly sizable movement. Let's just be real. Yeah, they're morons. I can't stand the stupidity, but they exist, and that is a fact. They don't outnumber the voters who voted for Trump. But because most of them are lazy and sat at home and didn't go out to protest. If they all did, I guarantee you that number would have been sizably bit different and a lot bigger. So please, this is my urgent plea to you. Bathrooms with your daughters? No. Well, then you need to go out and vote red. You don't want DEI hires? You don't want the open border again? Well, then you need to go out and vote red. I'm telling you. Midterms are on a lot of people's minds, more so than usual. And it's because of their hatred for Trump. So we need to let them know who's in charge. We need to let them know what the people actually think. Don't stay home because it's just midterms, man. If you never voted in the midterms, now's the time to do it. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, because the first thing they're going to try and do is they're going to try and impeach him. If they have any real power, they might actually succeed this time. Because, especially because of this war, man. Don't you dare be complacent. Don't dare doubt what I'm telling you.
We've got to make sure that that system is trustworthy and that our people have faith in it more than anything else. Okay?
Lieutenant Governor, what are your thoughts on your former seat, the District 14 seat, Frisco County, turning blue?
Well, I think that if Republicans had showed up, only 26% showed up to vote, that would have been a red seat.
What did I just say?
It out that way. You got to show up and be present to vote.
What did I just
ultimately, say? I'm sure that we'll win this back in the next election come November, and it's critical to do so.
Don't be sure of it.
If we show up and vote and we use our voice, I think things work out exactly how they're supposed to. There are many nations around this planet where people are very envious of having a voice and the ability to vote. And as citizens, we should use those.
You're damn right we should, man. Get out and vote.
Buy from the U.S. We have plenty, and build up some delayed courage and go to the Strait and take it. And then this morning, Robert, Keir Starmer comes to the microphone and says this. Listen.
First, let me say once again, this is not our war. We will not be drawn into the conflict.
Pussy.
That is not in our national interest. And the most effective way we can support the cost of living in Britain is to push for de-escalation in the Middle East and a reopening of the Strait of Hormuz.
He's not wrong,
which is such a vital route for energy.
Right out of that, Robert, I was very intrigued.
Look at Disney.
Starmer went on to say, we're talking with 35 nations. We're talking about how we would go in and help with the security. They did say once the fighting is done, but it was intriguing to see Europe move on this.
Or not move.
Or not
look,
move.
Yeah, like what movie are you talking
Starmer
about?
is a comic book character. He is presiding over the most precipitous decline of British power, really since the 1600s. They can't even defend their RAF base on Cyprus. When they tried to dispatch a destroyer, HMS Dragon, to Cyprus to provide air cover for that base, it was 2 miles outside of its base in Scotland before the hull began to leak. And now the French are providing cover for that. You could take the entire British Army and put them in Wembley Stadium in London, and the top tier is empty. So the president is absolutely right about the inability of Europe to defend itself. But he has insisted that they rearm. And one last thing, Keir Starmer has broken that special
I don't know what these people would do without America.
Hundreds of years. I would argue now that no longer is Britain our most important military or cultural ally or strategic ally. That mantle is now passed to the Japanese because of their economic power, their growing military might, and their strategic location in terms of what we need to do to protect ourselves from China and protect the world from China. So he's gone ahead and ruined everything that people like Winston Churchill and Margaret Thatcher built.
Dude, man, I'm sure most of you are aware of the absolute retardation taking place in the UK. You know, they're being invaded literally by Muslims. And they're actually, like, really, I know you've seen it in social media and you probably might think it's a joke, but people have been going to jail for friggin' Facebook posts, dude. Like, it's insane. It is insane. You know, most of the world is free. There's freedom is everywhere. But it's typically freedom in a cage. You know what I mean? Some of the shit that's going on in the UK in particular is outrageous. Unbelievable, man. Going to jail for voicing your opinions. Going to jail for Islamophobia. Love to see these assholes try that shit here in America. Do you own a gun? Yeah? You better clean it. I'll be damned. I'll be damned if I live in that America. No. Hell no. Sharia law. Pfft, blow me. That Mamdani jackass is just the beginning. That's just the beginning. You can expect it to get worse if you don't get out and vote. We need to stop these pieces of human garbage before it becomes impossible.
And I also wanted to pop this back up here from President Trump on Iran, as we did just learn moments ago that Iran's leader has asked for a ceasefire, and that's according to President Trump, as he said Iran's new regime president.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I believe that. Not because I don't believe in, believe that Trump is lying to us, but I mean, I would believe him over Iran any day of the week, and you should too. But yeah, we'll see.
To get to, we do know we're going to be.
We'll see. I know that countless people are expecting to hear a whole slew of lies tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when Trump addresses the nation. That's going to be the reason why many people don't even watch. Now, while all politicians definitely exaggerate, and I don't believe Trump is much of an exception to that rule, let's just be fair, I do believe there's still going to be some truth in the things that he's being said. You're still going to have some fact dropping, and then we should pay attention. So I encourage everyone to watch it tonight at 9 p.m., and I will be here. Let's see what old Bloomberg
pretty highly valued relative to underlying risk potential. So volatility you could see in the world, but not volatility you could see in asset pricing. Today it's kind of reversed, and you see risk being priced everywhere, especially around the AI trade. So it's a really interesting time now. So we were saying before it was a good time to be selling beta, buying alpha, as in like the market we were kind of generally not excited to invest in, but you could have to pick really interesting selective assets where you could drive, differential returns over several years. Now we actually see much more interesting opportunities with the way the market's being priced.
The AI, evolution has created kind of a reckoning for software especially. And it turns out that private asset owners are much more exposed to software than public markets. How does it look at Permira?
Yeah, we have a significant part of our NAV that's in B2B software especially, but it's a minority of where we've been investing. We actually have been a significant net seller of software for the last several years, and in fact, since the release of ChatGPT, not because we think software is in a bad place, but because we did not see this risk priced into software. So we saw better opportunities to sell software than to acquire. Recently, really towards the end of 2025, software moved into a really interesting price range, and we think actually now it's been oversold. Not necessarily in total, but there's really interesting single names in software that we think are.
Yes. That's true. All right. Well, the day doesn't look like anything overly spectacular. Doesn't look like much is really going on.
Christy Matino. It's been a pretty busy breaking news day here, and I wanted to share this
what did I just
with
say?
you. As we just saw President Trump leaving the White House moments ago, President Trump to attend today's Supreme Court hearing on birthright citizenship. And what's big about this is this makes him the first sitting president to attend oral arguments at the nation's highest court. We just saw
Really?
the president leaving the White House moments ago, and now you're taking that live look there outside the Supreme Court, where we see several people outside there this morning.
That's
now,
interesting,
President Trump
isn't it?
personally going to the Supreme Court to attend those oral arguments for a case regarding birthright citizenship, which is slated to start at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And we are going to have that audio here for you online from Fox. But of note that also at 10 a.m. Eastern time, we do know Vice President J.D. Vance also will be speaking. So,
oh, well, I'm going to be here past 10 then.
Of both of those. And apparently we just got this tweet in here from the Associated Press, says President Trump has arrived.
All right, I'm going to leave this running. I'm going to go grab a smoke real quick because that's supposed to happen in 10 minutes, and I'm going to be here for that. So stay tuned. I'll be right back, and I'm going to leave this on.
Of President Trump arriving. I don't know if we're going to get that, but we do have this live feed that is coming in here. This is outside the Supreme Court. Let's just turn the sound for a moment here. Listen in and see what we can hear.
Breakfast of champions, baby. Ooh, yeah. The hell is that? Oh, God.
And that's why we keep on raising our voices.
And those are some of the sights and sounds there outside the Supreme Court here right now. As we do know, just moments ago, President Trump has now arrived at the Supreme Court to sit in on birthright citizenship arguments. And of note, once again, this is the first such appearance by a president. Now, giving you both sides of the coin here, rights advocates have said the immigration crackdown has created a fearful environment, particularly for minorities, and violates free speech and due process rights. But President Trump has said his actions aim to improve domestic security and curb illegal immigration. What I wanted to do here is just give you a little bit more information, as a lower court blocked President Trump's executive order about this that told U.S. agencies not to recognize the citizenship of children born in the U.S. if neither parent is an American citizen or legal permanent resident, also called a green card holder. That court ruled that Trump's policy violated the U.S. Constitution's 14th Amendment and a federal law codifying birthright citizenship rights in a class action lawsuit by parents and children whose citizenship is threatened by the directive. So what we're going to do here, just listening in a tad bit longer here, then we will transition to some other news.
We say no. This will keep going. There's a climate of aggression against the Iranian people and the people of the Middle East, where people are getting slaughtered because the United States, under Trump's fascist leadership, is saying they have the right to literally destroy people.
All right, so we did just want to share that here with you. And once again, the Supreme Court audio we will be getting here in just a matter of moments. We do have that pulled up here, but that has not started yet. That's going to begin at 10 a.m. Eastern time, but we have it ready to go, as you can see on your screen, once it does begin. In the meantime, we've been talking a lot about Artemis 2 today, that test flight set to launch a little bit later on tonight, and you can watch it here on Live Now from Fox. And what I wanted to do is just bring you a live look at Artemis 2 this morning. As we do know, several preparations have been underway there. Our Fox 35 team has been covering this extensively, so we are going to head out to them for their coverage. My name is Christy Matino. My colleague Stephanie Quinu taking over for me. You're watching Live Now from Fox.
Welcome back. All right, take a look at your screen. This is the Artemis 2 rocket, and the rundown for the astronauts right now, the 4 of them, the crew has just now started their day at 9:45. So they actually just had their wake-up call and their breakfast, if you can believe it, if they were able to sleep, that is. So at 12:30 this afternoon, the crew will get a weather briefing, and then just an hour later, the crew is going to suit up and head to the launch pad at 1:44. So they've got a lot of time to get there. The official launch window opens at 6:24, and of course, this is a big deal for the local economy there on the coast. So we're talking to John Boyd. He's a principal with the consulting firm, the Boyd Company. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. It's great to be with you.
So we've heard a lot of projections about how many people are going to be there on the coast to watch the launch, heard things in the hundreds of thousands. What is your estimate, and how did you get there?
Well, look, Artemis 1 drew 200,000 folks, visitors and those that attended regional watch parties. That was back in 2022. We're projecting closer to 400,000 visitors and those that are participating with watch parties. That's a big number. I think keep in mind the global component to Artemis 2, the global network of suppliers and the corporate relationships helping to make Artemis program a success. This mission also has the first Canadian in history to participate in a crewed lunar mission, Jeremy Hansen. The Canadian media has been very proactive marketing this launch. Also, Artemis 1 was in November. Okay, this is happening this week, the peak of spring break.
Sure.
We think that should drive these numbers higher, and that's good news for the Space Coast economy.
So, John, we know that you consult with a lot of these businesses. What is your advice to these businesses to maybe seize the day, take advantage of this moment with all the people in town?
Well, it's certainly a great opportunity for the Space Coast's hospitality and retail industries. We are also seeing regional players really take advantage with watch parties and different types of events in Orlando and in Tampa. You know, the space launch industry for Florida is a huge economic driver, about $6 to $7 billion annually. Florida is #1 in space launches with 109 launches in 2025. This year, we're expecting to break that record with even more launches. There are only 57 launches.
Your credit cards are not one size fits all. Know exactly which card to use to earn the most rewards possible with the Cards Optimizer from Intuit Credit Karma. See your top rewards broken out by category and maximize every purchase as you go, so you can stack up all your rewards. Download the app to get started.
Economic impact for the Space Coast. Okay, that's based upon the projected numbers of direct visitors and others, participating in regional watch party events, and that's a very, very significant number, and it complements the overall impact of the Artemis program, this multi-year, multi-billion-dollar program. The region.
So the justice is weighing whether to uphold the president's executive order, or to strike it down. The president had intimated in the past that he may attend the oral arguments from the high court on the tariff ruling. It was another important piece of his plan for the United States for the next 4 years and beyond. And the Supreme Court dismantled that. He has been very vocal about his displeasure with some of the justices, some of whom he appointed. So today, he intends to sit eye to eye as the Supreme Court hears oral arguments on birthright citizenship. Our cameras trained on just outside the Supreme Court. If the president shows up, we will take you there live. Don't leave in too. We're covering it moment by moment for you. Have a great day, everyone.
Nothing is off limits to David Harris Jr. And there's no apologies, because he's armed with common sense, real faith, and the truth. Don't miss him on The Pulse tonight.
Hi, folks, we're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
America is blessed with countless servicemen and women who have bravely fought on our behalf. They've paid the price in body and spirit so we can enjoy our freedom.
By joining the military during a very active period of war, I absolutely went into it with the idea that I could die. Both my legs were amputated due to an IED that I sustained while I was deployed to Iraq. I mean, I'm still here, so there must be something more.
Far too many struggle to get the care and benefits they earned through service and sacrifice. Disabled American Veterans is a lifesaver for our injured veterans. They help veterans of all ages get the services they need, but they can't do it alone.
There were moments of frustration. You can't do this anymore, you can't go here anymore. I absolutely felt like I lost some of my purpose.
I'm asking you to join me and other patriotic Americans and donate only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, so that you can be there for our veterans too. For more than 100 years, DAV, Disabled American Veterans, has been fighting to keep our promises to our injured heroes every day. Moms, dads, sons, and daughters who are all impacted. You'll help veterans get the financial and medical benefits they've earned and receive the care and emotional support they need. When you call or go online right now with your monthly gift of just $19,
Shut up.
We'll send...
Sorry. Shut up. I'm not donating to your charity. Did you know that by law, all charities in America are only required to donate 8%? Single digit 8, between 7 and 9. They're only required by law to donate 8% of the money they take in. The rest, they can do whatever they want with it. And it usually goes into the pockets of the people working there. Now, people should get paid. Some of it should go that way, but 8%? You're better off donating yourself through your own channels. Hello there, Gung Dimas Messi, whatever your name is. How you doing? Thanks for coming. Drop a like. How many have you made today? How many what? How many what have I made today? Gung Demasai 30? If you're talking about money, I haven't made any money. I make like a quarter off of these streams. But it's a quarter more than I had, and I am desperately broke. So that's why I'm making a lot of videos. If that's what you're asking about, that's why. How much money have I made today? Well, I just told you. Not much. Not much at all. I don't make very much money on these streams. I wish I did, and that's what I'm working on. So if you drop a like, I'd really appreciate it. It'll definitely help. I'm grateful for you being here. So thank you.
For either side of this. Now, these arguments center over whether President Trump's executive order to control birthright citizenship comports with the post-Civil War 14th Amendment and an 86-year-old federal law widely understood to make citizens of everyone born in the country with just a few exceptions. So this is a live look right here as crowds are gathering. We cannot...
Gung de Messi 30 asks, does Bitcoin make money? Absolutely. Depends on your strategy, though. If you are comfortable with it making money over time, then I would encourage you to dollar cost average in. Every time you get paid, drop a little bit of money into it and just let it sit. That's probably one of the best strategies when it comes to, if you want a higher risk, higher reward type scenario, then you can trade derivatives, which would be futures or other types of contracts that use leverage. Now be mindful, if you use high leverage, and a lot of these Bitcoin exchanges do utilize higher leverage, upwards of like 100x leverage. Now let's say you've got $100 you want to invest, and you use 100x leverage. Well, you're going to profit off of that as if you were investing 100 times that, which is about $10,000. So let's say you wanted to invest $1,000, okay? Well, that $1,000 weighs about $100,000, which is more than the price of one Bitcoin. So if you saw the value of Bitcoin go up $1, well, then you would make more than $1. However, since your $1,000 would only count for 1% of that total with 100x leverage, that means that if the price goes down 1%, you lose everything. That's something a lot of people don't understand about leverage. No, it's not very difficult at all there, bud. If you're new to it, sure, but I would suggest and encourage you to take in as much information as you can. I've made quite a few videos on the subject. If you go into my channel, this channel, and look for the Bitcoin playlists, you should see some thumbnails. There's one in particular that I have as a purple thumbnail. I've got a hoodie on and sunglasses. The thumbnail says, "A Case for Bitcoin." Watch that video, and it'll probably help you. It's not very hard. There's other ways of investing in Bitcoin as well. If you want to go via the stock market, you can invest in a Bitcoin ETF. I don't really mess with those. I feel like it's just a better idea to just invest in straight up Bitcoin. But yeah, no, it's not very difficult. Gung de Messi 30. If anybody has a ticker symbol they'd like me to check out, drop it in the chat. I'll be glad to. I just explained trading. Perhaps there's a delay. Trading with derivatives. If you look in the description of this video, I have several exchanges listed, and those are the best in my opinion. Coinbase. I know Coinbase is kind of a meme, but Coinbase has some really great options for trading and derivatives, as well as accumulating Bitcoin. There's links for both of that. There's 2 different links for Coinbase, depending on your strategy. Of course, there's crypto.com, but I would advise anybody against crypto.com. They will steal your money, straight up lie to you. I've lost thousands of dollars because of them and their BS policies on, like their BS support. Yeah, I am all for boycotting crypto.com. Then there's BTCC. They are the oldest Bitcoin exchange on the planet. Again, I have links for all these in the description of this video. And I encourage everybody to check them out. Thanks for your comment. Hopefully you dropped the like. I would really appreciate it if you did there, buddy. And I think Trump is still about to be arriving, if he hasn't already. I'm fairly experienced. I wouldn't call myself an expert, because quite frankly, I don't believe there is such a thing. Hey, thanks for the hearts. That's not the like I meant, though, but I appreciate it. Go below the actual video, and you'll see the thumbs up button. If you could click that. Me love you long time. Let's go over to Newsmax and see what
President
they're talking
Trump,
about.
the first sitting president to attend oral arguments at the Supreme Court as the justices weigh in and decide on the president's actions on birthright citizenship. Your thoughts?
Well, I think it's very dramatic. It's never been done before. This is the chief executive of the
Big
United
deal.
States going to the highest judicial authority, the Supreme Court, like yours right now, of the importance that President Trump places on this issue.
No, I
Yeah,
haven't.
it really is a pivotal.
You didn't hit the right like button. It's the thumbs up that's below the title of the video. It's below the video. I appreciate it. Thanks for subscribing. He says, I think Trump's life will be cut short. Maybe. Iran definitely wants him dead. There's a lot of Democrats that would love to see him dead. I think it's a shame that people wish death upon anybody. But I'm guilty of it too. People love to chant death to who they hate. They love to idolize, and glamorize the idea of the people they hate dying. But when it hits close to home, people have sing a different tune, don't they? I would advise to get the hatred out of your heart if you have any. It's not a good thing to live with. You're free to dislike anybody you want, but wishing death upon somebody is not something I would condone. I don't care how right you are to hate the person. wishing death upon somebody. That's just not right. Thank you, Gung de Messi 30. I appreciate you. Let's go in to see what they're talking about here.
Changes or corrects its answer as to citizenship. The other point is the citizenship clause refers not just to national citizenship, but also to state citizenship. Are we to have two different definitions for those? It's one word, citizens of the United States and citizens of the state wherein they reside. So as you begin, I'd like you to go back at the beginning and be more specific about the answer.
Huh? Why are you fading out?
Those two definitions are the same or related. And what state citizenship is based on.
What? Why?
Thank you, Justice Thomas. I'll maybe start by addressing Dred Scott. You know, as you alluded to the fact, Dred Scott, you know, imposed one of the worst injustices in the history of this court, and it led to the outbreak of the Civil War. It's very clear, and this court in all of its early cases interpreting the 14th Amendment said, you know, the one pervading purpose, the main object of the Citizenship Clause is to overrule Dred Scott and establish the citizenship of the freed slaves. And if you look at the debates in the congressional record and discussion surrounding the adoption of the Citizenship Clause, what you see is a very clear understanding that the newly freed slaves and their children have a relationship of domicile. They do not have a relationship to any foreign power. For example, there's a comment where he says, look, people have been here for 5 generations and clearly have no relationships to any foreign African potentate, or have a relationship of allegiance to the United States. And that reinforces our point that allegiance is what the word jurisdiction means. It doesn't mean regulatory jurisdiction or sort of being merely subject to the laws. They're talking and they're thinking about it in those debates about allegiance. Now, as to your second question, if you look at the text of the clause, we believe it says, born in the United States, born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and the states of which they reside. So there's a constitutional guarantee that applies to both federal or national and state citizenship. And the key point we make there is that that word reside, if you look at, for example, section 1473 of Justice Story's commentaries, was understood to mean domicile. So when they say subject to the jurisdiction, and then they go on to say you're a citizen of the United States and the state in which they reside, the very text of the clause itself presupposes that the citizen is domiciled in the United States. If they're present in a state at all, they reside there. Reside means domicile in the Constitution, and we think that strongly supports our interpretation. It's textual evidence of our domicile-based theory of jurisdiction.
Well, starting with that theory, you obviously put a lot of weight on subject to the jurisdiction thereof. But the examples you give to support that strike me as very quirky. Children of ambassadors, children of enemies during a hostile invasion, children on warships. And then you expand it to a whole class of illegal aliens are here in the country. I'm not quite sure how you can get to that big group from such tiny and sort of idiosyncratic examples.
There are those sort of narrow exceptions for ambassador foreign public ships. Tribal Indians is an enormous one that they were very focused on in the debates as well. But what I do is I invite the court to look at the intervening step, which is the enactment of the Civil Rights Act of 1866. And there it didn't say subject to the jurisdiction thereof. There it says not subject to any foreign power. Now, if you go back to Blackstone and Calvin's case, they say it does not matter if you are subject to any foreign power. If you are born in the king's domains, you have this indefeasible duty of allegiance to the king at any time. So there's a clear repudiation in the Civil Rights Act. The Civil Rights Act is this breakwater which makes it very, very clear that they are not thinking about allegiance in the terms of like the British common law. They've adopted the Republican conception of allegiance. So it's from not subject to any foreign power, and then the debates just a couple months later make it very clear that they're recodifying the same conception. They were dissatisfied with the potential ambiguity in the phrase Indians not taxed, and they adopted subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And one of the strongest statements of this is Senator Trumbull's statement that I quoted at the beginning, where he says, he's asked, what does that mean, subject to the jurisdiction thereof? And he says, it means not owing allegiance to anybody else. That is what it means. And this court picked up on that in Elk against Wilkins when it says, it uses, completely subject to the political jurisdiction, not mere regulatory jurisdiction.
What do you do with one
Kim Ark's quote of Daniel Webster, who said, independently of a residence, with intention to continue such residence, independently of any domiciliation, independently of the taking of any oath of allegiance or of renouncing any former allegiance, it is well known that by the public law, a non-citizen, while he is here in the United States, owes obedience to this country's laws. Now, the examples that Wong Ark Kim used as exceptions are situations in which there was no...
Good evening. I'm Ron Burgundy. Damn it! Who
Are
typed
we
a
with
question
the
mark on the
friggin' commercials?
teleprompter?
What are you doing on our station's turf, Burgundy?
God damn it.
Come.
Sorry, guys.
To their foreign country and or occupied territory residents, including those citizens in Maine who had been occupied by the British forces. The U.S. had no control over them. And the whole theory of the Indian tribes was similar. The Indian tribes were analogized to foreign diplomats. So what do we do with that?
I'd say two things. First, as the Indian tribes, we think that's a case that strongly supports us because, of course, by 1866 and 1868, there was strong understanding that the Indian tribes were subject to the United States' regulatory jurisdiction.
But not the same way that temporary foreigners were, meaning there was a real debate going on whether the U.S. actually had jurisdiction over Indian tribes. That's why our cases, for the longest time, until that was finally settled, said, absent some act of Congress, our laws don't apply. U.S. laws don't apply to Indians on Indian lands, correct?
What does everybody think? What's everybody think about the No Kings demonstrations? Well, I think they're gaining speed. I think they're gaining a bigger following. I don't think that they are. I think they're backed by money from people who have a vested interest in keeping this country divided. I think it's very divisive. I think it's a waste of time, ultimately. And I think it shows the priorities of people and how easily people fall for certain narratives being pitched. I think it's a testament to the short attention span of people and their willingness to see beyond their own biases. There's a lot of bias in the media. I don't think anybody would argue that. If you think the media is unbiased, then why won't you watch one person's news versus another? Typically, if you're a Democrat, you don't want to hear anything Fox News has to say. And typically, if you're a Republican, you don't want to hear anything CNN has to say. They both lie. They both are packed with propaganda, and they both lean in a particular direction. We haven't had actual fair news reporting since the 70s, maybe a little bit into the 80s. But the news hasn't been a deliverer of facts in decades. The main point of the news is to piss people off. That's it. They piss you off while they're on, and then they sell you drugs during the commercials. That's America. And it's ridiculous. So I don't believe that the No Kings movement is inspired by honesty. I think it's a direct result of people's unwillingness to see beyond their own bias. Period. And I think it's inspirational to those who disagree. It should be, at least. If you disagree with the No Kings movement, then I highly suggest you go out and vote against blue. Vote red. You know? I don't think that there's any fair reporting in the media. I mean, there's a Democratic representative in Florida who was recently charged with 20-something counts of fraud for stealing over $5 million. Not one single media outlet covered it. NBC, ABC, and CBS. They were all silent on the issue. She's facing 53 years in prison. Sheila McCormick, that's her name. I made a video about it, a short, and I suggest you watch it because it's just another story that the mainstream media won't cover. Why? Because she's a Democrat, and by reporting that story, they'd be confirming something Donald Trump says. You know, Donald Trump has been telling us about the fraud going on the left. But nobody wants to cover that because then they'd have to admit that Trump was right about something, which he's right about a lot of things. Love him or hate him, that's just a fact. He was right about Iran's ability to strike Europe during his State of the Union address. He said so. And what did you hear on all the news and all the late night comedy shows? Oh, let's go talk about all the lies that were in his speech. Now, I'm not going to speak towards whether or not anything else in there was a lie, but that in particular, he said they had the ability to strike Europe. Everybody on the left called it a lie. He was proven correct when Iran fired that one missile. Did anybody talk about it? Did anybody walk back their accusation of him being a liar? No, they sure didn't. And that is the complacency of the media on the left. And you can count on them to do things like this when there's a Republican in office. When there's a Republican in office, you can pretty much count on the right-leaning news sources to deliver mostly truth. And then you can count on the left at the time, when a Republican is in office, for delivering all the propaganda. The same can be said the other way around. When there's a Democrat in office, it's Fox News and Newsmax that'll be pumping the propaganda out. That's just how they all work. But yeah, I would encourage you to, you know what? I'll just pull it up. You know, you don't even have to leave. I'll pull up the video I'm talking about because it's ridiculous to me that no news source is covering this. It's unbelievable to me, but it's also typical. Oh yeah, here we go. Huh? Huh? Okay, I think I have to do this. Appreciate your patience. Let's see if it plays now. Attention to mainstream media anymore is beyond me. Representative Sheila McCormick, the Democrat from Florida, just faced a rare public ethics trial for stealing $5 million in FEMA funds. Remember Doge? The House Ethics Committee found her guilty on 25 counts. She faces 53 years in prison. ABC ran zero coverage. NBC, zero coverage. CBS, you guessed it, zero coverage. A Democrat steals disaster relief money meant for hurricane victims, buys a diamond ring with it, launders it through her campaign, and the networks pretend it didn't happen. Newsbusters documented the blackout. Not a single second of evening news coverage from any of the big three. The media's not biased. They're complicit. Keep suckling at the teat of the propaganda machine. Loser. Yeah, so the simple fact is that most of these people at the No Kings protests, they buy everything their news tells them. Even someone who touts themselves as a critical thinker, they still deny anything like this because they don't want it to be true. That's called bias. And there's plenty of bias in the media, which bleeds into the minds of those who watch it. So my suggestion to anybody, look, you're free to believe whatever you want to believe. But my suggestion to anybody and everybody is to listen to the other side. If you're on the left, listen to the right. If you're on the right, listen to the left. Take in all news sources you can, and then do your best to validate those things and look into them. Don't just take a headline at its word. And that's what a lot of people do, especially on social media. There's a substantial, a sizable amount of people who only get their news from social fucking media. And these people also only read the headlines. While there's a lot of truth being dropped on social media, a lot of the headlines are just clickbait. And when you can't tell the difference between what's real and what's not, well, your head's going to end up full of BS. That's just a fact about people and social media these days. People believe what they want to believe. If it sounds good, if it's an aha gotcha moment against Trump, they will latch onto it, won't even look into it. They won't even investigate it. And a lot of times they won't even look at the source and validate the source. Known sources of complete BS are all over social media because they're not beholden to any rules involved in reporting news and being honest. A social media company isn't required by law to police the content. They provide a service for people to discuss things under the guise of free speech. So that, by definition, allows for complete and utter lies and fantasy to be mixed in with genuine truth. That doesn't mean they're all full of shit, but it definitely means that there's a lot of BS out there. So yeah, I would just tell anybody to stay intellectually vigilant, because there's lies everywhere on both sides, and that's the way of the world here in America. It's just how it is. Like I said, if you just showed up, like I said, if you're on the left, I highly encourage you to look at some news on the right. And if you're on the right, I would highly suggest you look at some news on the left. But most of us on the right are aware of how the news on the left works, and we're not interested in that. But anytime you hear a story on the news that you question the validity of, I highly encourage you to explore and ask these questions. Stop taking in headlines as ultimate truth. Investigate. YouTube's not research. There's plenty of websites, there's plenty of internet. You have the totality of human understanding and human knowledge at your fingertips. Unfortunately, it is also diluted by people who are just out to get clicks, and they pump out fanatical news and garbage because people want to be shocked. People respond to that. The problem is people refuse to move outside of their biases, and they don't want to accept certain things on the other side as truth. And a lot of people, almost everybody these days, like any of you that are watching that are on the right, if I said I believed in climate change, the tendency is to believe now a whole list of other things that may or may not even be true. And you've got to admit that is intellectually dishonest. That's not fair to the person giving the opinion out, because, we're all exposed to propaganda and nonsense. Chances are, we're all susceptible to it. So chances are you've been a victim of it at some point. Chances are you've got a lie in your head that you accept as truth. That being said, I encourage everybody to go farther than your biases. Step outside of those biases. It's the only route to truth. I appreciate you watching. Take care. Gung Demes 130 or 30, whatever it is. I appreciate you. Come back tomorrow or tonight. I'll be on at 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. for, I might not do the Artemis launch, but I might. I don't know. The Artemis launch to the moon at 6. Trump speaking at 9. I will be here definitely for Trump, probably for the Artemis launch. We'll do one last look at everything, and then I am going to call it a day. Bitcoin hovering around 68.4. You're probably going to see a downward trend unless some other catalyst in the market or in the news busts out and affects it. Nano crude oil futures trading sideways. You can make a little bit of money. You see this right here? When you trade on Coinbase, you trade with 10x leverage. Right now it's at 99.05. It looks like it's bouncing around 99.05 and 101. If you drop $100 on some futures, you're going to make $10 for every dollar this moves. So it's like $1.50, $2. You can trade on the up and make $20-ish when it gets up to here. Then you sell, and then you buy a short on the way down. You could make $20, $20, $20, $20. That's how you do it. Expect at some point to lose your whole trade, because that won't continue forever. But if you get a couple of them, if you nail a couple of them, then that's fine. Just expect to lose one toward the end. Brent oil futures hovering at about $100 a barrel. The IEA chief says the agency is weighing whether to further tap resources with market's loss of oil set to double in April. And happy April, guys. It is April the 1st. The US dollar looks like it's hovering around. Yeah, the market's waiting for the next catalyst. The market's waiting to hear what's about to happen in the world. That's why everything is trading sideways. Here's silver moving sideways. Gold moving sideways. That's Best Steel Holdings. I'll cut that out of there. The heat map for the S&P 500 looking mostly green. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ. A lot of green. Take a look at the Dow Jones Industrial. Mostly green. Take a look at a Russell 1000. Mostly green. We're doing all right today. We're doing all right. People are resuming their normal trading activities as they wait for whatever news is coming. Watch the markets go crazy tonight. Depending on whatever Trump happens to say. I would keep an eye on the futures market, namely oil, because the futures market you can trade. It closes at 5 p.m. daily and it reopens at 6 p.m. Well, for 1 hour it's closed, and then on Fridays it closes at 5 p.m. and then it comes back Sunday evening at 6 p.m. All that's Eastern Standard Time. Those are your futures market times. So I would watch oil with my finger on the trigger, waiting to see what Trump has to say. Because I guarantee you, the futures market is going to run tonight in one way or the other, depending on exactly what Trump says tonight. If he announces, we're about to obliterate them and go in and troops on the ground and all that, you can expect oil to go up. If he announces the war's over and we're done, oil will come down. Crypto looking okay for the past hour. Past 24 hours doesn't look too bad either. Super Microcomputer, Michael Saylor's company, having a great day. They are in for a rocky road up since that 30% drop last week when those people got busted smuggling NVIDIA chips to China. I wouldn't want to be them right now. ETF heat map looking fan-friggin-tastic. This is the yearly performance. Look at this. These are all ETFs. Look at the numbers. This is what you could make yearly if you just drop money in periodically into an ETF. You see all these red dots? Those are all Vanguard. These are all Vanguard ETFs. Just pick one. Throw a dart. And I will let you guys know that it is statistically proven that hand over fist, people make more money putting money into an ETF such as Vanguard on a regular basis than they ever do trying to time the market playing with those futures. Now, that's not to say that you can't make money. You can make a lot of money, but it's higher risk, higher reward. But if you want to play it safe, there is absolutely nothing wrong with throwing money at an ETF, every week, every time you get paid. I mean, for God's sake, man, look at this. 27% in a year. In a month, they're looking down because that's because of this war. Don't let that discourage you. That doesn't matter at all in the grand scheme of things. 3 months, they start to all look pretty good. 6 months, same. Year to date, it's looking a little rough. On the day, looking fantastic. That's how these ETFs work. Ultimately, in the long run, look at this. This is their returns over a 3-year period. Look at these numbers. Just look at these friggin' numbers, dude. You can't deny it. This is a 3-year return. Look at that. In 5 years, roughly, you can more than double your money. Let's say you put $100 in every week from your paycheck. All right? That's $400 a month. That's $4,800 a year. That's a little over, let's call it $20,000 in 5 years. Guess what? You'd probably be pushing $50,000. In 5 years, that's an excellent return. Do that for 30 years. It's going to compound. If you do the quick math in your head, that's only say $300,000, but it's going to be more than that because most of them drop a dividend, and you want to reinvest that dividend. Over 30 years, you can very easily stack $1 million. That's your retirement. Or, if you want to do something crazy, that's Thailand money, baby. And I am going to Thailand. Disney doing good. All right, I'm done, you guys. I appreciate you being here. Unless anybody has anything else, I think I'm done. I hope everybody made some money. I didn't because I don't have any money, but better days ahead, right? I hope everybody made some money. I hope nobody lost any money. Y'all be good. Peace, love, and hair grease, baby. I'm just waiting on the delay.